Hello, good evening, good morning,
Hello.
good night, good afternoon. How do we like this setup? Do we like this better? Look at this.
We're so close. Yeah, geez.
So close.
Gosh, I look so
It's
much
very
older.
Navy. It's shippy. It's like being in a
bunk?
just
A three-man
together.
bunk?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this better. I'm on the bottom.
This is more Brady Bunch.
Ah.
Oh, you are the bottom. Wait, no. Okay. Welcome. Hello. Good morning. Good evening. I already said all these things, but we're here, and we're going to talk about some things.
Hello, Doug.
Probably some serious things. Douglas is here too.
Good evening, gentlemen.
We've got Wombat, author of Treason Flight, Vengeance Flight, Mustang Driver. Got Gonky, author of the coloring books.
Those are marine novels. Sorry.
Dude, your internet's fixed. High speed, low drag internet, Gonky.
Crazy.
It's the only way.
Buy a book.
It's wide open.
But not that the DoD approves of these things, just in case anybody's wondering. So there's that.
Actually, in some regards, they disapprove. But
well, this is why we can't have anything already. Tim, thank you, Tim, for that
Tim.
generous contribution to the Gonky Mover Fund, Wombat. First thing we're going to talk about today, now that our banter is over and we have proven that we can speak like humans, the MiG-23 preliminary NTSB report is out, and it's a doozy. So let us begin. This happened in Michigan, August 13th, Part 91 at an air race /show. On August 13th, about 15:15 Eastern Daylight Time, a MiG-23 UB, N-23 UB, was destroyed when it was involved in an accident near Belleville, Michigan. The pilot and pilot-rated observer received minor injuries. The airplane was operated, Part 91, for an air show. The flight was performing the Thunder over Michigan air show held at Willow Run Airport. Yep. The accident flight was scheduled to be the second to last act. Excuse me. Pardon. The accident aircraft was privately owned, Russian-designed military fighter airplane that employed variable geometry wings that allowed the wing sweep angle to be changed in flight. It's powered by a single turbojet engine with afterburner capability, as God intended. The pilot reported that the flight departed from the runway 23 at Yip, followed by a right turn to a banana pass, a low-level knife edge pass, along runway 23. Following the pass, he started banking the airplane and noticed that the engine afterburner did not ignite and the airspeed began to decrease. He brought the swing wings into the fully forward position, 16-degree sweep, to increase lift, began troubleshooting the problem. He was actively troubleshooting when the rear seat observer stated that they needed to eject. The pilot reported that he was not ready to eject and was still troubleshooting the problem, maneuvering the airplane toward runway 27 at Yip when his ejection seat fired and he was yeeted from the aircraft. He stated that if either occupant pulls the ejection handle, both seats eject. The rear seat observer stated that the airplane made a pass along the runway, and the plan was to go to the left for another pass followed by a landing. He stated that the engine was not accelerating. He and the pilot had a brief discussion, began to climb up and gain altitude. They determined that they had some type of engine problem and needed to get back to the ground. He stated that they determined that they did not have sufficient altitude to make it to a runway at the airport. And he said they were compressed for time and needed to get out. When he asked if he had to pull the ejection seat handles, he stated he could not specifically remember, but he thinks that he would have if he had. Video evidence indicated that the airplane was in a left bank when the ejection seats fired. The airplane continued in left bank, descended to the ground about 1 mile south of the approach end of runway 27. Wreckage path was 600 feet long and a heading of 3.5. And fuselage section contained the tail surfaces. Engine came to rest adjacent to an apartment building. Remainder of the airplane was fragmented, distributed along the wreckage path. No reported injuries, thankfully. Just the two guys that jettisoned the aircraft. And hello.
What is a rated observer? Is that like a real thing?
One notch below Wizzo.
I just tee it up. But
Too soon? Sorry. One notch above Wizzo?
but-
I mean,
I think above.
What
You're a
is that a
pilot.
real? I mean, is that a real
type
qual?
or a real rating?
Yeah, is that a real?
I think it was just a statement. Like he's a rated, i.e., he's a pilot of some sort. Could be a 170.
Was he rated in the aircraft?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Like, what's a rated observer?
Because I mean, there is because it's the weight, and because it's the experimental, and there is a type rating. There's a type ride, right? You have to get the experimental authorization. You have to go get a check ride, and it's an FAA check ride to fly this thing.
Yeah, but then if the backseater had the type, they would have just said another MiG-23 pilot or rated.
Well, he's
pilot.
rated. They call him. Well, let's go back. Let's go look at this.
Because they say he's a rated observer, not rated.
Not rated pilot.
Well, he was
maybe that's
observing.
just
He wasn't
reading into it.
Words mean
Well, no,
things.
because he's observing because
true.
he's in the back seat.
Words matter.
He's not observing because of he's observing because this
plenty
jet
of
only
words
takes
in
one pilot to fly, as the Lord intended.
Dude, I understand that, but like I'd never like when there was another pilot in the backseat of the Hornet, I wouldn't call him a rated observer.
It calls him a
it's
passenger, and here
another
it says one
pilot.
passenger, one crew.
I'm just asking.
Anyway.
I don't know.
So
So my whole thought process is like, well, how'd you know how to eject? You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
sure he's briefed on
Well,
that.
he's rated.
Right? I mean,
He's
even if
rated. He's a
even
rated guy.
Even if it's an incentive ride. You used to do those, right, Gonky, at the
Yeah.
RAG? Like
I've done a ton of
I mean, maybe you weren't the one briefing, but the PRs, I guarantee you briefed him on how to eject, and then you probably briefed him on how to not touch a dang thing in that plane unless you tell him to. Am I wrong?
Yes, this is
I
not.
mean,
No, you're
this
not
is
wrong.
not
That-
a FAM rider. You're not
Okay.
wrong. I'm saying
Yeah.
yes. This is not a FAM rider. This dude was because I remember.
So you're saying he was
talking-
rated in the airplane and he was just acting.
That's
as
what we're going to go in the assumption.
He was an observer, like a safety pilot. Because
We
I
know
think
other
there was
ethics about
discussion
assumption.
previously about this aircraft where they wanted him to fly solo, and he couldn't because you needed two people in it for having hot seats. Because otherwise, you'd be throwing the seat out. So I think he always had to fly with two
in it?
people.
Really?
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
I don't think there was it had a solo mode.
I mean, granted, it's
just-
not exactly
It's Russian.
a new plane, but that's a
No, it's
horrible
old-
design.
old Russian. Yeah, that is terrible.
So-
That's a stupid design.
What's the?
Anyway, we digress.
I think you're at fisticuffs when you land.
Dude.
Personally. I think somebody is.
Why am I
getting their
here?
face- Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Your heads down, probably in the checklist, and the next thing you know, your VA rating is 200%. I mean, but you're a civilian, so you don't get anything. But we'll get to VA ratings here in a second. But the pilot in command, dude. The
So,
aircraft
dude-
commander makes that call.
So like Wombat saying when I used to give rides, right? So if you had wings on your chest, I would set the little handle to aft initiate. I'm like, dude, you got wings on your chest. I'm going to assume that you can properly judge this. But when it was like midshipmen's, somebody who didn't have wings on their chest, I would set that thing to like aft solo, I think is what it called. I can't remember, but whatever the one is where they
aft solo, front both, or whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah. So like if they pulled it, it's just
T-45
them.
same way.
Yeah.
Midship
just
people.
them.
Midship people, Gonky.
Midshipman. I lived 20 years back.
Midship
Dude.
persons.
Yeah,
midshipman.
he and his internet are from 20 years
But-
ago.
No, his internet is wide open. That joke is
We've
done.
been on for 10 and a half minutes, bro. You've got to give it
Gonky-
longer than that.
No, he
Look,
showed
it can
me the
even keep up-
megabytes. But so it's happened before, right? You've had
The
admirals
Tomcat.
that have punched themselves out
Yeah.
of Tomcats. It became a JAG episode one time.
Yeah.
You've had the civilian French guy that yeeted himself out of the back of that aircraft. You've had the T6 Texan. That's a big one. The canopy fracture system, where he pulled the canopy and it clamshelled, jettison that. This is more of a two pilots seeing the same situation, and one goes, "I've got this because I'm flying it," and one goes, "No, you don't. I'm out." And then he forgets that he does it. He's like, "Well, I would have if I had," and he didn't remember that he actually had. Meanwhile, the front seat guy, this is a lack of crew coordination. This is, hey, we're going to make the decision together. I don't know what their crew brief was, but we did not make a decision together.
That was the crew brief, dude. High five, bro. It's awesome.
We're at an air show.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
Yeah.
single engine considerations, right? I mean, climb, conserve, turn back to the field.
Well, they did.
Try to
So
get into a
he said they started climbing, right, to troubleshoot in the article.
right. And it doesn't say they had no power. It just said they didn't have afterburner or full military power.
Yeah.
So,
I
the
mean,
jet's
in a
not
lot of
doing what you're
regards,
thinking.
That's no power.
Well,
But,
yeah.
So, I mean, also, unless it's hitting the ground, death is imminent. There's a sequence of words that you say prior to
Bail out, bail out, bail out.
or
Right, we don't-
eject, right? Or
Well, we
three
don't
bags
say
over.
that. We always say, we talk about ejection, we use bailout for the command.
Really?
At least that's an Air Force thing.
That's
Yeah.
Air
I was
Force
gonna
in
say,
the-
yeah.
Navy, it's
in the,
eject,
in the
eject,
briefing guide,
Yeah.
in the briefing
Don't say
guide,
the E
it
word
was-
unless you mean it.
we bail out, bail out, bail out, or the three phase curtains. But
Yeah.
we talk about the ejection decision.
Yeah, but the point is,
You
it's
briefed
never,
it. Yeah.
it shouldn't be a
Yeah.
surprise unless total SA breakdown.
No, it should never be imminent. Like, hey,
Right.
we're out of the window in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're out.
Yeah.
This just looks like a bad crew coordination and a guy in the back seat who thought he had more SA than the guy in the front seat.
Well, lucky it's just an airplane that got destroyed. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, no
'cause,
kidding.
dude, if
I could have
you're
went into a house, apartment. I mean,
well, not only that, what if the guy up front was like literally heads down reading a checklist, and the
He-
seat fires with like 1,000 G's or whatever it is? I mean, you break your neck.
Jeez.
Not 1,000 G's. I'm a real fighter pilot. I know it's not
Slight
1,000
exaggeration.
G's.
It's 500 G's, obviously.
Dude,
Everybody
he
knows
is a
that.
puddle of
In
nothing.
Russia, everything bigger, including
He is
G on
unit-
seat.
the rocket is like SpaceX. It puts him in orbit. He's
That's
just
right,
he shows up at the
Make
ISS
sure.
all of a sudden.
Yes,
I
every
bring
injection
vodka for
successful.
the ISS. Yes, I bring the vodka. Oh yes, why?
Always an envelope.
Oh yes, why? It's a -0, like you can go -200 feet.
Yeah. You could have died 6 weeks ago and still punch out.
Yeah.
Catch up.
we have
But seriously,
yes.
if you're not in the right body position, I mean, you're gonna get hurt.
Oh yeah,
I mean, even
Oh,
if
he's
you are in the
probably-
right
I mean,
body.
dude. Remember
this-
what was his name at Vance? Splash told us that
Oh,
story
yeah,
going
dude.
off the catapult.
Yes.
He got a soft cat, and what was it, an A4?
Or yeah,
And
he
they
went
yelled at him to eject. So this is a guy that was in charge of the Navy guys at Vance, and he pulls the handle. And I remember him vividly being like,
Commander
"It didn't
Coy.
fire,
Commander Coy.
didn't fire." So he looks down, and as he looks down, he sees the rockets fired.
Yep. And he skipped across the.
And I mean, he ended his career at Vance. I mean, there is no better pinnacle for that as a Navy guy, right?
Busmaster did that.
Jeez. Anyway,
Poor Busmaster. He's a good guy. So anyway, crew coordination, probably still troubleshooting, not ready for the ejection decision. We almost kill some people on the ground. That's the problem I have is, we're not.
Well,
I mean,
mistakes happen.
that really was like feet away from being
Yeah.
another Miramar kind of situation.
sure.
Not.
Yeah.
We're just.
But if
talking
the guy in
about,
the back was like, "Dude, we're gonna die if I don't pull this handle," well, then I mean, dude, it's
And
you
he's
know,
But that's
got
not what
about-
he doesn't remember it though.
Yeah.
So is that from the
1,000
ejection?
Gs.
Yeah, that's from 1,000 Gs.
1,000 G's erased your memory.
Well,
I mean,
the
I
poor
only know
pilot
people that
is
ejected out of American aircraft, which are far less than 1,000 Gs, but
Yeah.
they still have some
well,
recollection of it.
Yeah.
You know,
the
I mean,
poor guy who owns it is a 777 captain, so he's not like a 20-year-old vertebrae. It's not.
Yeah.
This is he's Tom Cruise. He's Tom Cruise ejecting out of the Dark Star.
He's going to have to pick up some green slips or whatever they have.
To pay for that.
His taxes
Okay.
suck this year, right? Or
well,
maybe they'll
like-
be really good, actually, because that a write-off?
Yeah, it's a write-off. Douglas,
Yes, sir.
you're up.
So this is from The Guardian. Ukrainian pilot Andrei Pilschikov, call sign Juice, was killed on Friday when apparently two L-39s collided west of Kyiv. And he was an advocate for F-16s being given to or loaned to Ukraine. That's the tie-in. He was apparently a powerful advocate for F-16s and unfortunately will not get to fly them.
Yeah, it's pretty sad training accident. I mean, I read that article. I didn't know that he had trained with the Fresno Guard guys, which I thought was pretty cool.
No, I
That's how he
didn't
got
realize
his.
that.
That's how he got his call sign.
Was that when Fresno lost that guy in the back when they had
I
that
don't-
mishap?
I don't
'Cause that-
know. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a couple years ago, and I forget in the article when he went and trained with the Fang, but I mean, he must have been flying the Eagle, right? Maybe in exchange. I don't know what kind of training he was doing, but he was there long enough for
Fresno
them
went
to
over there. Yeah, Fresno went back over there. Their
Oh.
mishap happened over there in the back of a MiG-29.
No, Sue is a flanker.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
it's sad, man. I mean, 3 guys gone.
This guy, I've seen some articles, and the problem when you talk about Ukraine, especially on Twitter, is it brings out the worst in people. I get it. I get it. There's so much political stuff around it. There's stuff, we all have our political beliefs. We all believe, what's right, what's wrong. But at the end of all of this, they're people. And, whether it's fighter pilots, people on the ground or whatever, people losing their lives. I have seen some very stupid takes. I saw one of them I even responded to on Twitter where the guy said, these idiots, and that's his words. He said, these idiots are crashing into each other. Why do we want to give them F-16s? And you look at this and you go, well, first of all, slow down there, cowboy. Every country in the world that does fast jets for a living is susceptible to this. It doesn't matter whether they speak English, Russian, Chinese. It doesn't matter. Fast jet business is just dangerous. It's not easy. So what happened to him has nothing to do with any of the geopolitical stuff. What happened to him, we as fighter pilots go, that sucks, nickel on the grass. We lost somebody that was decent. And Juice was a good guy. I've talked to some people, intermediaries. We were trying to get him interviewed. In fact, back in the fall, we never could get the timing and all that to work out because there's a lot of approval process and stuff. But I was trying to interview him because the dude was kind of like us, advocate of aviation, advocate of his country. He loved his country. He loved flying fast jets, and he wanted to see his country do well in the air and on the ground. And you have to respect that. Doesn't matter what side you're on, you respect the hell out of that because that was, his passion. And I'm with him. I think it's awesome. The mishap itself, we won't speculate. We don't know. I mean, I don't know what their process is, but running jets into each other is part of training. It is the danger of training. It is the danger of doing this job. The Americans are not immune. Nobody is immune to stuff like that. It sucks. It sucks when you've got a guy that's high level, but that's not something that, is just because they're Ukrainian. And then the final part I'll say, I don't think this guy, and I've seen this article too, I don't think he wanted all the fame. I don't think he wanted to be called the Ghost of Kyiv because that was a myth that was perpetuated by a lot of stupid people in the media that they just ran with it because it was good for morale. But this dude, on his own merits, was a good dude and a badass. And that's what we should be thankful for, and burn the piano, throw the nickel in the grass, honor a fellow fighter pilot and not try to add all the lore to it as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, he even says, hey, I'm not the ghost of Keith. He's like, collectively, he's like, like
Right.
him and his squadron mates were that legend.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I've never met the guy. I've never met the other two guys that perished as well. But kind of like you said, Mover, guaranteed those guys are just trying to execute the flight schedule, man, to the best of their ability. They're
100%.
they're looking out for one another. They got families, they got friends. And honestly, those guys, at the level they were training, they could care less what was going on in the outside world, politics,
Yep.
whatever. Those guys were just trying to do the best job that they could do. And, I'm not on Twitter, but we have mid-airs in the U.S. all the time. I mean, relatively speaking, we have mid-airs. I mean, I almost had a mid-air. That was my almost ejection, was a mid-air. And to think that, and, when people say, and I saw some of those just from reading articles, people saying like these clowns can't handle F-16s. I mean, that's super ignorant, to be honest.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Any fighter pilot can handle an airplane. It's all in the training. These guys just, like you said, accidents happen. I'm sure there were mistakes made, but I mean, that's the nature of the business. I've never had a perfect flight, So
well, he was an advocate for his country in getting new equipment. I'd be doing the same thing, dude.
course.
If I'm flying,
we do the same thing.
Right. I'm going to be the first one standing on somebody's desk going, hey, give us better equipment to fight this war. You can't fault him for that.
No,
you cannot fault. You might be able to fault the higher echelons where money changes hands and stuff like that. But the dudes doing the mission, they're doing it for God and country, man. That's it. I mean, that is what it boils to. And the dude or dudette next to him. That's it.
And that's, I mean, honestly, man, that's on all sides of the war. I mean, I don't have a ton of combat experience, but my combat experience, I was just trying to help the guys next to me, like I was trying to help the guys on the ground. I was trying to make sure that my wingman was doing the right thing. I could care less about the politics, what was going on outside the cockpit, because you're called on a task to do. You're scheduled to do it. The government pays you to do it. And you do it the best of your ability, because if you don't, your friends might die, and that's what actually hurts,
Yeah. What do you think, Wombat? Been quiet.
No, I agree 100%. There wasn't one mission I flew, whether it was training, combat, anything, in my time where I gave two damns about the politics or why some politician or some high up military guy made the decision for us to be there. I just knew that my friends were there and I wanted to get them home, and that was it. You don't think about that stuff. You don't care about this. I mean, when you're in port or you're back home, not on deployment, sure, do you talk about it? Of course you do. I mean, it's affecting your lives and the decisions that are made. And, but in the moment, like, it's, one of my buddies once equated it to like, and I'm not an advocate that athletes and people in the military are the same, but, they equated it. We were talking about this and he goes, well, somebody asked like, well, it's like an athlete who has a broken limb or something, but they're still playing. You know what I mean? They're not thinking about the pain of that. It's adrenaline. You're there to do your job. You'll deal with that stuff later. And, to me, there was no worse thing than leaving somebody on deployment. Like that's a fate worse than anything. I would have rather died myself, frankly, than have somebody else not make it home. So I agree. I think it's ridiculous that, and this is the problem with social media. I mean, it's great because some idiot from New Jersey could write 2 books and sell them. And that's awesome, because 20 years ago, that would have never happened. But the negative and the ugly side of social media is you know, you get these people that just think they know it all and think they have the right answer. And it's like, dude, that's somebody's life, man. That's somebody's mom, dad, husband, wife, you know, kid. Like, you can make your post, but like,
Well, what
take a
we
moment and
forget
think about it.
as Americans, we as fighter pilots, right? To Wombat's point, right? You'd rather not leave somebody behind. Dude, there's nowhere to leave behind. It's there. It's in their backyard.
Sure.
I mean, that's Wolverines. You know, I mean, you're losing the wives, girlfriends, brothers, all that stuff. They've got hypersonic missiles inbound trying to attack their training location. This was like a couple weeks ago, you know, where the F-16 guys, the first cadre, were hanging out. They were trying to lob missiles at them. So I mean, this guy I'm sure he feels isolated. You know, he feels like, hey, what's the rest of the world doing? Why are we fighting this by ourselves? And he is going to do everything he can. And he's well spoken, so they put him in front of, you know, others, interviews, media, stuff like that, because he's a fighter pilot fighting for his country.
Yeah.
I don't care what your politics are, dude. You pick up a rifle, you get in the jet, you do what you have to do to save, you know, your homeland. And when you die in the defense of that, even if it's a training mission, it's an honorable death.
Yeah.
It's
It's a warrior's
100%.
death.
Put the flag on the coffin. Yes, 100%. It
warrior's
doesn't
death.
matter what they were doing. It's a training incident, but he was trying to make his country better. And, you know, him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That being said, man, I mean, it's just it's just too bad that there's just so much death and destruction going on over there right now.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Douglas, what's next on the agenda? We got, let's see here. Marine Osprey. So we've talked too much about mishaps. I mean,
got any
that's why I put
questions,
the title.
Doug?
Yeah.
Can we lighten the mood for a second?
Well, yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do
Somebody
that.
said
Yeah,
it's a
do we have
joke.
let's take a
Somebody have
minute
fly
before we.
swatter around here, 'cause I have,
Yeah.
Hey.
Renee says, "Would any
Hey,
of you
thanks.
have flown the Concorde? Why did it fail?" Thank you, Renee. Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
of course I would
that's-
have. Flew an E2, man. There's nothing I wouldn't have flown.
It's kind of the same, but the wings are way straighter.
Why would you fly? Why did it fail? Money.
Yeah. Cost
Why does
per
anything
seat
fail?
mile, right?
Yeah.
Is that how they measure
Yeah.
it?
Money,
Yeah.
and
Money.
wasn't it like kind of ahead of its time a little bit?
Yeah. It's super expensive to own and operate, and they
Yeah.
couldn't.
Much like
own-
yourself, Wombat.
Someone would say, hold on, I almost got it. I'm gonna get this fly, man. This fly is my
Dude.
nemesis now.
They could only go supersonic, man, over water. So
Hell yeah, as you should, as the Lord intended.
I'm still gonna get
Am I reading this, Douglas? Are you reading
I got
this?
it. I got it.
thanks,
Reading-
MF.
Mother.
Yeah, MF.
Mother-
Reading that the MiG-23 has a minimum eject speed of 90 knots to be safe. Possibly a factor which made the backseater go. Thoughts?
No.
Is that
I mean,
a
look at
real
the
number?
T-38?
I mean,
Hey, well,
they did
yeah. I
get-
mean, you've got 0-80 seats. I mean, that's a normal
Yeah,
thing,
that's true.
but
is he
they were
saying,
nowhere
like-
near 90 knots.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, if you're 90
Yeah.
knots in any fighter,
Yeah. If you were 90 knots, you were okay. That's a valid decision.
good. To,
You know,
good
engines
choice.
rolling back if we're at 90
Hold on,
knots.
don't say any fighter,
Knots.
bro. Like you could
Well,
do that in Hornet. A
well,
Charlie.
In
with
their
no
regime,
engines?
Well, they had engines.
If the
Engine.
engine's rolling back and you
Engine.
are at 90 knots, dude, I'm out. Give it back to the taxpayer. See you later.
Wombat, is
Have
the
fun with
seat starting to fall out from under you? That feeling, you know what I'm saying?
that.
Oh no, I know that
It's
feeling.
like-
Trust me.
I know you
I'm
do.
well aware of
I
that
know,
feeling.
So am I.
Which is
Yeah.
why, Mover, you lost me at single engine the way it should
Possibly
be.
a factor. Yeah, you know, honestly, yeah. I mean, if he doesn't even remember, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just got
Yeah.
scared.
Next.
Delta Perigee.
Thanks, man.
I'm an
Thank
aerospace
you.
student at the University of Tennessee. I'm
Nice.
Go Tigers.
I'm not going to say, yeah, sorry. I'm considering a career in military aviation, preferably fighters. Any advice y'all can
Do it.
give? I don't know where to start.
Go to the guard and do it.
Don't get a felony.
That's my, don't get a felony.
I'll
It's the
stop
same
you.
advice. It's always the same advice. Make them tell you no. Don't self-eliminate. Get
Yep.
good grades. Score well in your AFOQT. Get some flying hours if you can. Be a good dude or dudette. Make them tell you no.
Yep.
Questions.
And like Mover said, if the nice thing about the guard or reserve is you can kind of pick what you're going to fly. If not, if you go the working man route like I did, it's dealer's choice, which makes it exciting but stressful at the same time.
Hell yeah.
And Wombat did the same thing. So
Wombat, what is happening? Are you 1v1? Do I need to put this banner up? Hold on. I've got a whole banner for this. Hold on.
Dude, hey,
Yeah,
he's still
He's in a 2 circle with an insect.
There's my light. Man, this is serious stuff.
This is not good. This is not good.
That's what happens when you have a poop
He's in
chair.
a flat spin headed out to sea.
I want to kill it right on the camera.
Oh, dude.
So that way it just
You're
sits
reading this one, Mover.
One of
Continue,
Gonky's
Douglas.
favorite viewers.
Oh,
Mover, do you want to? I've got it.
Monkey Goose.
You guys remake Top Gun 1986, the original. Which one of you is Mav? Which one of you is Goose? Which one is Iceman? And why?
I think
is
we all
Coach
know.
Goose?
I think we all know that
Oh,
Mover's attitude
come
makes him
on.
Iceman, hands down.
Yeah, I'm the better pilot too, so that makes
Yeah,
sense.
sure.
Maverick is Gonky.
Why I get it? But he says I'm Goose. Why do I get to die?
Who said you were?
But we're remaking
mine
it.
is
Maybe he
Gonky.
doesn't die.
Does that mean Rip will say, "Why are the wings coming out in 30 years?"
I hope not.
Sorry, Rip.
Yeah. No. Well, I guess I'm Goose,
No.
and I guess Wombat. I guess dude, you're Maverick. Someone's got to play it, dude.
Wombat, I got a question, dude. Hold on. We got to go back to the straight screen. Why does your shirt look like I'm losing my vision?
That's
It's
how
like a
done.
Technicolor.
Yeah, it's fun.
Does it not look
Um,
like the camera's having some issues?
No,
No, dude,
that's
that's
the print. If you had one of these shirts, you would know. Thank you for the support.
dude. The
Where can
rotor
people buy
blades
your
on the
shirts?
E2 blur things.
They
It's
do.
accurate.
It's accurate.
See it?
Plus the vibration.
The vibration.
It's-
All right. I got you.
Not to
Okay.
mention the radiation.
I don't think you can
Uh,
remake Top Gun, man. It's perfect. The first one.
Let's do two more, and then we'll get back to the serious stuff, Doug.
Can do.
It's too much fun.
It is.
Hi, I remember Gonky. This is from Vulcan 03. I remember Gonky saying he was scared of heights. How does that work when flying fighters? God help you if you eject. Close your eyes.
Yeah, that's why I've
Close
never
my
ejected.
Low levels. Done.
Yeah, I am actually afraid of
Helicopters.
heights. And somebody commented on that on my video, and he said like they did a study and found that's actually not uncommon. Like
Mhm.
I have no problems with wings strapped to me, but you will not catch me. Like when I got to go on the roof to get my kid's ball, I get very angry because I
You
scare
just
you.
buy another ball. You're like,
You're right. There's
Right.
like a whole.
So would you have
like,
freaked
we're gonna
out in
have
the
to buy
helicopter?
another house
No.
for good reason. You would.
I mean,
It's
the
a
wings are
helicopter.
spinning.
We'll
I've been
never
in
know
a
now.
helicopter.
It's sold.
I've
It's
been in
gone.
a helicopter,
It's
dude. I've been in a.
Have you been in a
Helo.
Robinson helicopter though?
No.
In the front seat. Actually,
there's
you
a
would
lot
have
of
been in the front
glass.
anyway. Rip would have been in the front. You'd have been in the back.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I've flown an ultralight where like I'm literally, I look down and it's the ground, and I felt okay, but I'm just not cool with walking around, like being in a stadium at high seats and stuff. I don't like it.
Mhm.
Really? It's even
Okay.
that bad? You don't like being in a
Yeah.
stadium?
No, dude.
That's just he's being a snob. He doesn't want the cheap seats.
No,
You just-
no, I don't.
You
I don't
reach
like
the
it.
elite level of a tube marine book.
So what did you do on the carrier?
What do you
It's
mean?
not that high off the ground, bro.
60 feet.
It's
And it's
off the
water, dude.
water.
You're not gonna
I
die.
mean,
The ship will run you
like
over, but
when you're throwing Goose's dog tags or your own dog tags, as we learned in the last comment,
That's-
off the
he was
side.
30
It's
feet.
actually, yeah, he's 30. He was in the
He
hangar
was
bay,
30
dude.
feet, dude. That's like a high
dangerous
dive.
amount. That's
Yeah.
higher than your roof.
You had to
Yeah.
jump. What did you do in OCS? Because you had to jump off the high platform, or at least in API. Remember when we had to do that?
Dude, we did the
That was
parachute.
high.
Mover. This,
Did we?
we did no, you and I got out of it because we were too heavy.
That's a fact.
So Mover, were you part of the drag? I know. Thank God. Where they drug you behind an F-150? I mean, they legitimately had it.
You parasailed behind the F-150 Advance. I have done that.
Dude,
I
You're
busted
supposed
my
to.
ass so hard when you landed
You're
because it's
supposed
still
to.
dragging you. Like they release you and you're just like
it's the
PLF.
launch. It's the launch that's scary because they tell you're running as fast as they can, and the dude punches the truck and literally just yanks you in the air. And we saw so many people get hurt. Where I was like, "Oh, dude, And he's like, hey, if you're 215 or heavier, I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely me.
Done. Dude, I don't care what I weighed that day. There was no
No.
scale.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
In the Air Force, they do that at water survival too.
Yeah.
So our water survival is they drag you behind the boat and
Oh yeah.
parasail
Which is
you.
kind of
Yeah.
fun. It's kind of
And then
fun.
you float around
It's
in the
typical
middle
Air
of
Force. They also do
Pensacola
that
Bay.
in Cancun, Mover. It's
Well,
It's
you
not-
know, I mean,
TDY.
look, dude, let's not get into water survival because that was the stupidest. Like, what? Why do I need to be in a helo dunker? If I'm in a helo dunker, don't they have people for this? Don't they? Like, all right, I ejected
ask
from
my
my
buddy
fighter.
who
This
was
is a
the
crappy day.
survivor. You heard
Well,
that story, right?
Yeah. We
Yes.
were IPs together, man.
Yeah, that cracks me up.
I'm just
I was like,
saying.
that's what you get for being a volunteer.
No, Mover, it's
They
a free
have
for all.
people.
In a helo, dude, it's a free for all, man.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
all right,
Helo,
back
man.
to
It's every man and woman for himself. And I promise you that crew is not thinking about Mover. The fighter
Mover's
pilot
always thinking
aboard.
about
That's
Mover.
not
Mover.
it's not their
Mover's
priority.
always- Douglas.
Yes, sir. Marine Corps Times has news that the
Oh,
Marine
geez.
Corps has identified the pilot who died in an FA-18D crash at Miramar. It was Major
So,
I can
Andrew
skip it.
Metler,
You can skip it. Yeah. You just
call
Hmm.
sign Simple Jack. Another training accident.
no. Really?
Wow. Wow.
Another
Yeah.
simple jack?
Yep.
Man,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I talked about this on the live that I did a couple days ago because it just
Hmm.
happened, but they didn't have the name released at the time, and I'm sure they're still doing the investigation, but it's basically nighttime San Diego training. I mean, he was flying a D by himself, so
was it
is the
water?
is the rag
Was
is
this
the
over?
rag closed? No, he crashed he crashed just north of San Diego, man, and like in the hill country there.
Oh,
Yeah.
this says it was based at Beaufort, so this is a Beaufort.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they were there doing some sort of.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But-
it was.
Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, we'll just have to
He
wait.
was on the lieutenant colonel list, so he's probably up for skipper.
Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to wait for the report to come out. I mean, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
Wombat's flown around there. I mean, it can be challenging with weather and nighttime. You know, if he's working
Marine
even a
layer.
minor, yeah, marine. That's what I was gonna say. The marine layer and with the elevation, maybe even if you're working a small prop, man, you get a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nighttime is.
I'll tell you,
is
man,
dangerous.
and I don't want to speculate. I really don't. But something that was always on my mind, whether it was Hornets, I mean, even in the E2, but you know, because we were just up the road, or T45s, we went out there a ton for CQ debts, right? And
Yep.
always in the back of my mind were all those homes, always. And I mean,
Yeah.
whether that played a factor or not, I don't know. But dude, I
He
can't sit here
crashed
and
at
tell you.
midnight. He crashed.
Yeah.
at
So I
midnight.
mean.
Well,
Dude, that's rough. That's it
Nickel
just,
on the
it was just
grass
on
and-
yeah, agreed. It's just something that
Defense.
was there. You know, you knew it. Out in Fallon, you're like, when am I going to hit him? That's Jack. Like, it sucks. But in Miramar, you know, places like that, Virginia Beach, things like that. Like you think about that. At least I did. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we'll just have to wait, man. See what comes out of it. I mean, the Marine Hornets. I mean, I love the Legacy Hornet, but they're getting old. You know, stuff happens. I mean, they're well
Demons
past
beat up.
design life, hour wise. I'm sure. Even when I
Yeah.
flew them, we had a couple
they
of
were-
these
our
that were.
Charlies were.
Yeah, we had some that were 4G limited, man. You couldn't even like
Yeah.
the only thing you could use them for is instrument flying. Like you couldn't.
That's
do
the
a
center
G-horn.
barrel, right? When the
Yeah.
center barrel expires or goes out
Yeah.
or whatever, it runs out of
Yeah.
time.
They can.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
had,
they
we
can.
had one that you couldn't go over Mach 1 on.
Really?
Really. Yeah,
In
couldn't
the
break
fleet?
the number in the fleet. I learned that because it was in the logbook that apparently I didn't read closely enough, and then I busted Mach 1 off the bow. So let me rephrase that. We had one you weren't supposed to go over Mach 1.
Allegedly.
You could still do
For
it
legal
just fine.
reasons.
You just aren't
For
supposed
legal reasons, this is a joke.
Yeah. No, it happened. I'll
all
admit
right.
to it. I screwed up. It was,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that, I mean, that's what we're saying, man, is like, you know, as these things start to get older, like they try to put these control
Yeah, that was-
measures in, and at the end of the day, dude, it's a fighter plane. You're a fighter pilot. You're like
Doing some pilot stuff.
right.
So let's circle back. You, as a pilot, are asking for newer equipment.
Always. Like, Dad, I want a new car. Every all the time.
So
We just never got it because we weren't in the Air Force.
Yes, mover. We're all the same, right? All
Yeah.
fighter pilots are cut from
It
the same
doesn't
cloth.
matter what the fighter pilot is. We
Nope.
all want the newest, shiniest, fanciest jet.
Doesn't matter where we're from.
Especially if you're fighting a war in your backyard.
That's true.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let's keep the sad thing going, then we'll stop for some comments here. Marine Osprey set up.
Oh, dude, bad day for the Marines.
Yep, that's
Oh,
it.
geez.
3
That's-
U.S. Marines dead, 8 in the hospital. They're injured in an aircraft crash on Tiwi Islands near Darwin. 23 Marines on board. 20 were flown to Royal Darwin Hospital after the crash. 3 lost their lives. There's an effort underway to recover their bodies.
Wow.
I'm amazed that anybody survived.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Dude, have
I
you
mean, that's to me like usually you get 0, and that's
dude, a V-22, that thing, like you said, mover, the blades are massive. I can't imagine
Them coming apart.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, the frag going everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
we need to get like Casmo and then an Osprey guy on the channel sometime, and then just
Yeah.
talk, because I would be curious, because I don't know anything about Ospreys. I'd
Yeah.
be curious in like emergency procedures. Do they auto rotate? Do they turn it into airplane mode and glide?
I
Like,
think
what-
I don't know. So I've flown with some Osprey guys recently, and it's very interesting to listen to them. What at least I got from the guys I've flown with is that they pretty much think of it like a helicopter for all intents and purposes, unless they're going
Do they really?
long range somewhere. So my guess is it's something, vertically, not what we would think is fixed wing guys. It's very interesting, but
yeah,
really
I'm
cool
just
stories.
curious.
So.
is
Yeah,
it pretty
I mean-
robust? I mean, are they still?
Oh yeah,
kinda
it's
like
built
walking-
hard, but it's still. I mean, dude, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, it's not a helicopter, so there's not the everything put together by one Jesus bolt. And then it's if that
It's 2
comes
Jesus
apart.
bolts.
Sorry, I don't know. I don't fly helicopters, so
because you got one on each
um,
side now.
yeah. But yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit, man. That's. I mean,
Well, in
coming
training,
from
right?
Somebody who has flown a plane that is a death trap, I give them a lot of credit.
That's
well-
replacing the COD, right? In the Navy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Now, Wombat in the training pipeline, somebody going E2, they fly both the training helicopter, and then don't they go to Corpus also and fly the?
I don't know. You're
244?
talking if they're Osprey guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't, because we didn't
think
really
in the Air
have
Force,
it
it's
in the
a-
Navy when I was in training.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's a
true.
helo track in the Air Force, if I'm not
Like
mistaken.
through and
So
through?
you go to
It could
Yeah,
be a
like
through
you
and
go-
through helo track in the Navy.
Fort Rucker / Novasil, and then MV-22 out of that. So you fly the Huey, and then somebody will correct
Wow.
me. I'm probably wrong.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure there's 40 comments already about how stupid. what I'm saying.
You guys
Yeah.
are dumb.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're not even real.
yeah,
pilot.
but anyway, but joking aside,
Yeah.
It's too
very
bad.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
I agree.
it sucks.
Dude, it always seems to happen this way too, right? Like, doesn't it? I mean, I know it's cliche
Yeah.
to say, but it's like
Comes
you
in
get them
threes.
in waves.
Yeah, and they're all. I mean, and those guys, they're in Australia. It's probably a good deal.
Yeah, sure
it's
it
just
is.
like,
Margot Robbie.
That's every woman in Australia. I'm glad that is your stereotype for every Australian woman.
way to go. We love our
Never
Aussies.
ruins,
Oh my god,
never
are you
ruins
kidding me?
Australia. Oi, oi. Call that a knife? Oh.
Australia's great. Can't wait to go.
Here, I
back.
got one, Doug. Thanks, Tom.
Mom, thanks.
Hello
dude.
from the UK. I should be in bed, but I'm watching you guys. Do you have any comment on the US DoD admitting the TR3 really exists? Isn't that a British car?
What is it? Yeah, that's a Triumph, isn't it?
No, it's Terminator
mom-
3. It was
my
a
mom
movie.
had one when I was
Arnold did
born.
it. On
Douglas,
Netflix.
what's a TR3?
TR3 is a Triumph sports car.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a
No,
car.
in-
My
In
mom
this
had one.
context of the
In
DoD,
this context, I have no idea. I'll need to go Google it.
Doug, what would you say you do here? Like,
I'm the car guy. It's
Well,
literally my job.
go
Come
one
on,
word
TR3
below what you
Black
found.
Manta, reputedly a United States Air Force tactical spy plane.
Nice.
Oh.
Can we shoot things with it?
Not spy.
And the
Tom, this
pictures
is
are all pictures of F-35s. So
This is the
that's not
first time
helping.
I've ever heard of the TR3 myself.
Yeah, we don't get out much. If it's not in DCS, Gonky doesn't know it.
That's not.
Oh, did I just spoil it? Gonky secretly just a
blew the-
DCS pilot
You
that's
just
never
blew the whole lid off
blew
my.
the lid off of it.
Shut down the channel. Shut it down.
See ya.
That's why he's goose.
Yeah,
That's why he's goose.
exactly.
Scott, Wombat, did you win the war down there? I saw a fly a while ago.
So did I.
No, he's hanging out. He's getting tired. You got to wear
Gotta
him
wear
down.
him down.
man.
You gotta
Yeah,
wear him down.
Wear him down.
It's a rate fight. You just gotta be patient.
exactly. You fight him hard enough, he'll just do something stupid, and that's when I got him.
Bored, scared, tired, or maybe you're Iceman.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. He's got you.
You got to fly in your ice water. Okay, Ghetto
Definitely not
Streamlabs.
make an
Thank
admiral
you.
in the Navy. That's for sure. Trust me.
Thank you,
Wow,
Ghetto.
thanks, Ghetto.
Several months ago, Blackhawk crashed in a training exercise into an intersection here in Huntsville. It was caught on a Ring camera. I saw that video. It's very hard to watch. Is there a place to go to see what happened to cause the mishap? So, used to be, I don't know about the Army, but they've gotten away from this. I used to be able to go, and they had like a library. The Navy safety, they had a FOIA library, and the Air Force on their JAG site, where it was like all the mishaps and stuff. And I don't know what changed, but they stopped doing that. And now the only way I can see, and I don't know what the Army used to do, but I'm assuming it's similar. Now the only way to see it is if like Military Times, Air Force Times, Army Times, whatever, posts it, and then they'll post a link to the PDF, and that's usually where I find it. So I don't know what changed or how to find this stuff. You guys know?
No.
Okay.
I have no
No,
comment
man.
on that.
The shaking
I
of
have my
no.
theory, but I have no comment.
All right. Cool.
Mm.
Anthony Cornelius.
Thanks,
says,
Anthony.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh,
Look, you recognize that
F-16.
jet?
Yes.
Look at that jet.
It's Fighting Falcon.
The Viper.
Sorry, I get
Gonky, this is for you. The Cluterus. It's funny how we can find him on this channel, but nowhere else. Wombat, if you could add missiles and guns to an E2, how fast would you shoot, move her down in an F-16?
One turn.
if you put it in that turret thing up top
Flat.
that spins around.
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
like-
have you guys ever done a flat turn? I don't think you have. So talk to me when you have.
What
It would
is
be like-
a flat turn?
Flat turn is a 180-degree turn with no aileron. Wrap your little brain around that one. That's something you do regularly.
Dude, Hooters would be like the
Rudder, my
last
friend.
the
All
last
rudder.
That's a
Starfighter.
Raptor.
Yeah. All rudder.
Pew, 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 pew,
It is
pew,
the
pew.
most vertigo-inducing thing that I've ever done in an airplane.
I actually have done it in the helicopter.
That's not a
Mm.
real
Called a pedal turn.
Does it take half of the United States airspace in about 30 minutes to do? Because that's the thing that really gets you on it. Dude, those things sucked. And then the moles loved it. Hey, can you just flat turn? Like, you know, I got to land you on a ship, right? You don't want me to have vertigo. But whatever.
So Eric says, question for Wombat.
Thanks, Eric.
Do you think the
Look at that.
C2 would make a good fire bomber?
No.
Maneuvering and useful loads.
It's
So does
maneuverable,
C2.
just like a Hawkeye's maneuverable. But
Sold.
I think the load and then also just the time on the airframe. I mean, they're so beat up from the ship that you'd see the wing spars starting to fold. And I mean, we've all watched those videos. I don't think there's better planes for that.
Firefighting, man. I mean, they've had some mishaps lately because they've
Yeah.
been busy. A lot of fires. We actually just in this parish just had someone unfortunately die in a fire. You know, brush fire started and they ended up in it, their house and
Wow.
stuff. It's just terrible. All right, back to the show.
Wombat the
think
fly.
we're up
that's
to-
what I mean.
Speaking
Yeah,
of fire,
no. I'm
You did a
trying to
show
be-
of force.
Were you ready?
Sorry.
This
Ready.
one was Broward Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Gregory Tony announced the deaths of a Broward Sheriff Fire Rescue captain and an adult female civilian. 8:41 Monday, August 28th. Flight crew was dispatched to a medical call and declared an emergency, apparently. We're trying to return to Pompano Beach Air Park. Crashed into a small apartment building. 2 crew members managed to escape, and Terry Jackson died in the crash. Terryson Jackson.
Jesus.
I can't speak to this, man. This is helicopter stuff. I watched the
I
video.
saw the-
and-
Yeah, the videos.
Well, so we're not gonna play the video because it's
yeah,
hard to
no.
watch. But you watch it and you watch the flight aware track, and it was a return to base. So the thing is trailing smoke, something in the aft, section of the engine, tail boom. There's drivetrain components all back there, and eventually the tail snaps. And
Sure.
how anyone survived is, to me, a testament to the pilot and the engineering of that aircraft.
Yeah.
Dude, as a fixed wing
it was
guy, what? I guess I don't know anything about helicopters, but why didn't they
Just land?
Right.
Yeah,
like
I
as soon as
was
he had the
fine.
fire.
I don't know what
I'm
the
just asking,
indications
I don't
are. He may not have had fire indications. Like, I don't, because it depends on where the fire is, where like anything else, right? Depends on where it is contained that you have a fire.
It's your trailing smoke,
he
right?
didn't-
I mean, something caused them to go
Well,
back.
you can't look back there and see, hey, unless you're doing turns or something, who's telling
Well,
you that you're trailing smoke?
But what Wombat's saying is they knew they had a problem because they were
They
heading.
knew they had a problem.
They
I guess,
did.
is the point.
They did, but it's just like anything else, right? It depends on severity and what you're dealing with as to whether you put it down right there or you take it back to the field. Land as soon as possible versus practical.
Sure.
So we don't know, and it's kind of silly to speculate at this point until the NTSB does their thing. We don't know. All I know is I saw a video. I am grateful that people survived, because when you watched it the first time, it looked like people were going to die in the air and on the ground. And it landed in an apartment with people in it. So like more than just the person that unfortunately died. So
It looked like a pretty modern, like a newer.
it was
Helo,
EC1. It was
too.
an Airbus helicopter. Yeah, those are super nice. Like
Yeah.
some of them, can have all kind of autopilot
Airbus.
features and stuff.
Are they the ones they make here in the States?
Down
in,
Airbus
remember-
helicopters?
remember we used to
Do they make
Mobile?
helicopters
I don't
in
know.
Mobile? Mobile makes.
I know they
something.
make airplanes, but not.
They-
I don't know if. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it looked like
It's
it
a very
looked like
nice-
an- yeah, it looked like an awesome helicopter.
It's a very nice helicopter, and once that tail's gone, you're along for the ride. Like there's nothing. Like that's it. So
Glide ratio of 0. No thanks.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna hard pass that.
well, when everything is still together, it's good. But when stuff falls apart, I'm amazed. I'm continuing.
Well, and I think Gonky and I kind of have the typical fixed wing, not necessarily with this, but it was with anything with helicopters, right? Like I remember joking as an LSO on the ship, like, what's it like shooting like an ACLS?
Yeah.
After the ship, like if you screw it up, you're just like, hold on,
Back it up.
back up a couple feet. Okay, we're good
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean? So like
we
that's
just
the
don't know.
natural, like, whereas, like with fixed wing, you're always moving forward at some velocity until you're not, so that's the question where it's like, well, my brain immediately goes to like, dude, just put it on the ground. But again, there's a lot of variables. I'm not second guessing this guy. that's where my
it's the same thing, right? You have to go based on what what's the severity of the incident, and where is equipment going to be? Am I going to take? Am I going to take something if it land as soon as possible? Okay, here's that field. But if not, I want to get back to where there's emergency rescue equipment where I can.
How close did they get? I didn't see that. Did it say?
What?
Because I know they took off for a call and then they started coming back, and that's when they lost it.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, you're only doing 100 knots, 110 knots.
Well, and and the one thing I'll say, because I'll devil's advocate this too, is a lot of people are like, oh, never pass up an airport, never pass up a landing spot, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you that's BS, man. Like Hawkeye with a hydraulic problem over Iraq. I should have put it down in Iraq, and I decided not to. I was going back to the ship. It almost killed me. But there's no way I'm putting that thing down in Iraq because we would have never gotten it out again. You know what I mean? This is Iraqi freedom. So I do agree with you, Mover. Like where the equipment is a way of saying the same thing. It's like, dude,
there's external forces like guiding your decision making.
And I mean, and I told that crew, I was like, you may have to bail out, but I'm pointing us back over the Gulf. Like we're going back to the ship.
I guarantee you, if they knew they had a situation like that, But you also
That
have to
was
understand they're in
imminent.
Hialeah. They're in high.
No.
Look at, dude. It's all urban. Like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you put it down somewhere, you're more than likely putting it down in power lines and cars
For
and
sure. And
somebody's
those are
parking
things, like I
lot.
said, my brain's not wired to because
It's
I was never trained
in
to
urban
think that.
areas. It's an assumed risk. I think the H-135 is it two engine? Is it twin engine?
I don't know, man.
Yeah. All right, Douglas. But my point being is, you may be thinking you have more time than you did.
Sure.
That's all.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's get back to the kids at home.
Happier questions?
Yeah. Something happy?
We did that one, right?
We already did that one.
Okay.
I still don't think it's a good idea.
Ding in the Gonky chat room wants to see
Thanks,
your helmets
John.
up close. Your cam should show them well. Okay to do. I don't understand that last sentence. But can you
They
show
want
us
to
your
see
helmet?
some helmets, but
You know what?
because it's kind of a sad night.
Oh, I see. I got it.
There they are. Just zoom in on it. It'll freeze frame here in a second, and you'll be
I
able to.
can't.
It's not, dude. That joke is dead.
It's never dead to me. Never.
You know what?
Now we
On the
make
next-
fun of you and your fly.
That's fine.
John, on the next QA, man, I'll bring him down. I'm kind of connected to my apparatus here, and as
That means he's not wearing pants. That's what that means. Just so everybody's clear.
So to speak.
as bad as yeah, I'll do that on a Q&A because, like I said, I've got all kinds of wires
Look at
and stuff.
He's getting. Look at his camera. It's great. That's awesome. He isn't wearing pants. God,
Again,
you
the
never
next
change.
Wearing
episode.
pants?
You never
Donkey's
change.
blushing. He's never blushed before in his entire. I've never seen him turn red like this.
Because it's
He's
funny.
like my
what
shirt.
Wombat- it's funny what Wombat says. Not true, but I will bring the helmets down. Brian.
Sure.
Hey, Gonky's about to start getting a whole bunch of donations from some single
Exactly.
moms in his area.
Yeah. Wrong channel, ladies.
But $20 is $20. So
Spoken like a sailor.
It's your turn in the barrel. Next, we have Brian. Doug, go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is the only live I go out of my way to watch. I'd love to see y'all do Mover Ruins movies on the Great Santini.
Oh, great
Always
movie.
a sucker for
Yeah.
Robert Duvall movie. And Flying in Always 1989.
Oh, I've never
All right.
seen Always
I don't think
1989.
I've seen that either.
I've never even heard of that. I have seen a Great Santini though.
Mhm.
What? Yeah. Always 19. I'm surprised I haven't said. They made some good cars in 1989, but
They did. Not great, but good.
shut up.
Corvettes weren't so great back then.
Nothing was.
That's the year my IROC, bro. 89.
If you knew him, you would know that.
Dude, T-tops.
T-tops.
I know you have a Mustang.
Broken
No, dude, it's an
But
IROC.
Omni Spark.
train.
Hey, what's faster, your IROC or the Mustang?
Oh, Wombat's Mustang is faster, but what's cooler? Definitely the IROC, dude.
You
The
have a
fact that
jacket
it hasn't
for it?
rusted apart at this point is actually fairly a testament to General Motors in the 80s, frankly.
Dude, given how you're a family man now, I'm surprised you even have that.
It's
Yeah.
the last bit of glimmer of hope he holds on to, is what it is. He just sits in it and makes engine noises in his trailer somewhere.
wonder
No, she runs. She runs,
Oh,
but I
she
don't drive
runs.
it. I don't use it. I don't take it. Anyways, I have not seen Always 1989, but The Great Santini is. I actually just discovered that movie like a month ago, and I love it. It's amazing.
God, that IROC brings back so many memories.
It does, dude.
Are we
Fox.
caught up, Doug? or
Hey,
did
can we
miss?
put a
One more.
here for that Fox?
Andy Cornelius, question for Gonky and Mover. Did either of you know Waldo with the VFA
Yes.
204? Mover, I think it's time for another DCS flight with Ray.
I have not talked to Ray in a while. I hope he's doing okay. I haven't checked in with him. I need to. Waldo
Yeah, we
is
knew
the
Waldo.
one that took my position at 204 when they were like, "Hey, your kidney thing, you're gone," and I'm like,
didn't
"Hey, I
know
want to
that.
stay," and they're like, "We already hired Waldo into your position," and I'm like, "What do you mean you've already hired Waldo in your position? I was here first."
He's a good dude.
Still is
Wow.
a good dude.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I think he was at I don't know. He was at FedEx back then. I don't know where he's at now. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
I saw a picture of him with Farley and Worm at Tailhook.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Remember I told you that? They
That's
were
right.
playing golf.
Yeah.
Farley was barefoot. All right. Next.
I checked, and the name of the movie is Always, and it was made in 1989. So when you go looking for it, leave off 1989.
Is it a
Is Will Wheaton in that?
It was directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Richard Dreyfuss, Holly Hunter, John Goodman, Brad Johnson. I don't see Will Wheaton.
Sounds like a chick flick.
Yeah,
Is it a aviation type movie
it
or
is.
really
Romantic fantasy drama in which a recently deceased expert pilot mentors a newer pilot while watching him fall in love with the girlfriend that he left behind. Oh, it's a romantic triangle with a dead guy.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, that
gosh.
sounds bad.
No
That sounds
way.
worse than Iron Eagle.
This will be a good movie to watch with the
That's
wife.
saying something.
Yeah.
So
All right, next.
one of our questions is a segue into the next topic. Do you want to just go ahead and do that?
All right, let's do Jim Norton's alcoholism.
Oh, we can do that. Who is everyone's favorite comedian other than Jim Norton?
Who's got?
Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Mine is Wombat.
Thank you. Mine is also Wombat.
Wombat
Yeah.
himself.
I mean, if you knew what Wombat stands for, it's pretty tough.
Very
You
few
can't-
people know.
You can't. Yeah.
So they
Hey,
want to
we
do a
got 690 views.
Nice.
what
They
has?
want to do a contest
690.
online to try to guess my call sign. And it's funny because I asked the guy, I go, well, that's great, but like nobody's gonna win. So
I think.
mean,
Well,
it's like that's the
we
worst
should have
contest in the
somebody
world.
guess Gonkies for the contest.
Ooh,
Nobody's gonna guess that either.
See how many
And then
people
we
get
have to
canceled.
Gonky. And that's
Yeah.
Cancel them. No, you cancel whoever guesses it. They get canceled.
ooh.
It's like ultimate game.
So all I have to do is publicly guess it, and you guys cancel me.
No,
and I don't
dude,
go online anymore.
look,
That
It
sounds
can't be
like a lot
anybody
more
in the
free
know.
time.
It can't be anyone in the know. It's got to be.
Nah.
But
Nobody's ever.
Well,
gonna
nobody
guess
can say
Gonky.
it. Who has the legitimate authority to say it without getting canceled? Nobody.
That's true. You can't. Yeah.
I think there's probably certain.
You,
Gonky
you
could
are the
say
only
it.
person that can
That's
say
true.
your call sign, and you're not going to guess your own call sign. You know it. It's cheating.
I'm surprised he still remembers what it stands for.
Of course, I remember every day in the
I
morning.
have never forgotten. I love telling people that story.
Oh my god, it's one of my favorite. It's one of
My
my favorite
favorite
that
thing to
made
tell
it
people.
through everything.
The
too.
shock
like,
factor just
yeah.
is so
But
great.
all of the call signs that had no business being canceled. No business. You're like, that might offend somebody. Hold on, let's take it off a plane. Oh my
Yeah.
god. And then here's Gonky taxiing by, and you're
Yeah.
like, if you knew, like if you had any idea.
Oh, dude, yeah. I had a Navy captain, who discovered what it meant, and he's like, I'm surprised. In fact, he refused to call me by my call sign. He called me by my rag call sign.
What was your rag
And-
call?
What was your rag call sign?
Sock.
What was it?
What?
It was cruise sock. But
Croc?
That's,
well,
that's actually
it's sock
legit.
for
I can see
short.
that.
Sock for short. So
that's
we'll
right.
have to talk about this offline, Mover. But when you're
You don't know what a
long
cruise
time-
sock is?
I have no
course he
idea.
doesn't.
We had
He's
our
never-
own, we had
He's
our
never been on
own
a cruise.
places to stay. We didn't. Do
No,
you
it
guys
has
like
nothing to
share
do
a
with
sock?
where you're staying.
Was it
It's-
very stiff?
No, look in the Air Force Wombat, the
Monkeys
girls
was.
and everybody, they all come together and they camp together, and there's no need for a cruise sock.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But in the real man's Navy, war
I
fighting.
don't want to. Oh, please. Where's the banner? Where's the banner? Oh,
Anyways,
jeez. All right.
That is right. I
That was,
remember
that was my call sign, and that's why he called me sock. And he's like,
That's
I
funny.
just
He
can't-
wouldn't call you Gonky.
No,
Do I know
just-
this Navy captain?
You probably do. Yeah.
Does it surprise me?
No, it wouldn't surprise
okay.
you one bit. One
Perfect.
bit.
Hey,
Cool.
there's people listening. No more inside jokes.
No, that's good.
I feel left out.
What, cruise sock,
And
dude?
probably 690
hilarious.
people do as well.
That's
Wombat,
hilarious.
text him. Just because I can't right now.
Okay.
My
Wait, I'll message.
I'm
Look
not
at your
reading my
face.
text.
No.
Can
look at
we,
your
can we can we go to the next topic, Douglas, and use the D-Stew as our segue?
I think it's probably time.
I think
The FAA says 5,000
Stu.
pilots lied on medical records to hide conditions that would prevent them
Steve.
from sitting in the cockpit. 600 commercial, one failed to disclose sleep apnea. Many veterans' thoughts. And let me get that. Okay, you go ahead. You clicked it and then I clicked it. There we
I
go.
was getting rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So 5,000 pilots are suspected of hiding major health issues. They're getting
Whoa,
Look at that
whoa, whoa!
hair.
Go
Whoa,
back
did
to
you see that
go
hair?
back. Up. What is this?
What?
which part? The picture?
No,
I know you guys haven't
Who's
been in
fly-
an airliner in a long
Is
time,
that-
but that's exactly what it looks like.
Is that AI
that
flying that
Pigpen?
thing?
2 FOs with
This is one of this is an
one
artsy
whose head is
newspaper.
turned the wrong
That's their
way.
Well, they're
and
wearing
it's
their
fucking
hats, so we know who they fly for.
backwards.
Big D.
So as I understood it, the
Mother D to you.
Dude, does Big D wear the hat in the cockpit too? With their submariner uniform? Submariner?
Wombat wouldn't know. He wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know, but I have seen pictures of people at that airline wearing their hat flying.
Do they do the crush like the old
No,
fighter
they
crush
turn
with
it
the
backwards.
headset?
'Cause They turn into a machine.
Yeah.
I've
You
flown
wouldn't understand,
wartime
man.
missions in
It's
peacetime,
crazy.
peacetime missions in wartime. I've been shot at, looked at, run over. I'll get you there safely. Come on. All right. Sorry, Douglas.
I need
No
to come up
problem.
with a better captain.
I don't want to be in the one in charge of trying to make this serious anymore, though.
No,
Oh,
it's not
dude.
worth it.
All right, back
This
to
whole
Steve.
thing, don't get me started about
Lies.
this whole thing.
So
This
what
is-
what we've got is pilots who are getting VA benefits for serious disabilities, who are flying in commercial and civilian, and probably aren't eligible based on their disabilities. Does that sound right? Or not?
That's
right?
what the
Excuse
article
me.
said.
Yeah, this happened before where a couple guys actually went to jail for it or got
Mhm.
probation where they had like PTSD, right? That's a disqualifier because
Sure.
the FAA doesn't understand mental
Sure.
health.
Sure.
So you claim
Among other
PTSD
things.
coming out of
Mhm.
service and then you don't disclose it, and that's the crime.
That's a crime.
And then the medical records from your VA claim the fact that you're getting money and getting benefits then gets
Which are
discovered
supposed
by
to
the
be
FAA.
not
Well, doesn't
like
it,
they're not supposed to cross those streams, though, right?
the
Your
issue
medical-
is that
I'm not.
there's a whole
justifying them, I'm
form.
saying.
The form asks you, FAA Med Express specifically asks you if you're now currently getting disability benefits from the VA. And if you say no, and they find out you said you meant yes, you might go straight to jail.
My question for you
Or-
is: has it always been that way, though? Because I don't remember on my early med
Well,
forms
no, because
that
it
question
used to
being that
be
way.
no, because it used to be paper. Now that it's digital, I can tell you, like at drill weekend now,
Yep,
in the
Nope,
military,
you're right,
they
100%.
always tell you, hey, don't forget to disclose when you go out to your civilian doc, because now the system pulls
Hmm.
anytime your social is tied to it. Now, is that a HIPAA violation? I don't know, but
Not when the
the
government
system's
does it.
all talk.
Sorry.
And now that the systems all talk, people that were
Banner.
trying to avoid, can you please let me talk?
Sorry.
Not just the systems talk, but let me talk. People are getting in trouble because they didn't disclose on the form. Because if they had disclosed, sometimes it's a special issuance, sometimes it's a couple extra questions, and sometimes you just don't get a medical until you figure it out. Do I agree with this? Depends on what it is.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what I was gonna say.
I mean, it just depends. It's like everything else. It depends. I think you should be honest. I will never encourage anybody to lie. But I also think that the FAA should do a better job so that people don't feel like they have to lie. And that, you know, if you can show it, the process needs to be streamlined so that people don't get grounded so easily. Then they
Agreed.
would be more honest. And
Agreed.
we could actually address mental health instead of trying to hide it, which is what we
No.
have now. People try to
But-
hide.
But it's more than PTSD, right? I mean,
No, it's just an
not-
example. I mean,
Yeah.
like
That's an-
sleep apnea.
That's an
was another
extreme
one. Like,
example. you
sleep
know.
apnea is another one, right? Where you
Yeah.
say, hey, I couldn't sleep. I had sleep apnea. You get a 30% disability. I'm getting paid, but I'm not telling the FAA because I don't
You
have a
don't wanna go
continuing
through that.
problem and I don't think it's a problem or whatever. So, yeah, stuff like that. But it still should be streamlined to where, look, I show you here's the documentation. I'm still good to go. I'm not going to die in flight. Here's your medical.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I have 30%
Oh boy.
disability.
Here we go.
What?
Gonky's going to jail.
No, I mean,
I mean, you claimed it, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
told it, right? And it's not for anything that would affect you flying an airliner.
no, and you
Same
know,
with me. I have way more than 30%. It has nothing to do that's going to affect me flying an airliner. But I
Yeah.
do remember when I first came out of the military, and I'm glad you cleared that up, Mover, because I'm like, I don't remember it being a thing But it was when I first came out of the military, it was paper. And then it switched over. And then I do remember it. And then there was that big hubbub where they did jail these people and fire people.
What do you mean?
and all
What do you
this.
mean paper? You mean there's
Like
no
when you
medical
Your
initially-
VA records were like your medical
Like
records.
when I
used to be paper.
started,
Oh.
like you would walk in just like a doctor and be like, nope, 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 nope. And then it went
Well,
to a system,
you're-
and that's when they started asking the VA.
Your medical records used to also be paper too. I remember going from Vance to Randolph, wherever, and you lugged the big sealed file, and it had like the thing, the tamper-proof
Still
thing, and like
have
you
one.
couldn't touch it. You just had to hand it off. And then I tried to get it when I left Tyndall, and they're like, we don't have that anymore because it's
Yeah.
all been scanned in
Mhm.
and your medical records digital. And then when you go to apply for VA benefits, now it's even easier because they just go, well, if it's in your file, we've already got it. I don't
We
have
got
to
it.
provide, all this stuff.
As much for sure. Yeah. But I mean, I made them same thing when I got off active duty. I made them print it.
Yeah,
Meridian.
I did
They
too.
printed
Yep.
like a medical record, and they're like,
And they
really
got-
sure?
now they-
we can put it
they
on a
just
disc.
look-
I'm like,
I got them both.
Yeah.
print it.
Yeah,
They can
dude.
do that.
I mean, I can see both sides. I can see some guys
Sure.
trying to get like all the money, and then I can see
Yep.
some guys are like just an honest mistake, like
Yep.
because like it's like you said, Mover. It's two separate. It's almost
Yeah.
like two separate authorities that talk. It needs to be like, what
Mhm.
if it's your flight medical? It's your flight medical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's the thing too, is like even on the military side, you'll go see somebody out in town, right? You step on a nail, you get a tetanus shot. Well, when it's time to go get your medical or next drill weekend or whatever, you've forgotten about it, because
Yeah.
it says, hey, in the last 12 months, how many times have you gone to a provider? And you're like, I don't think I've been in the hospital. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But you forget about, the little 10 minutes, to get the tetanus shot or whatever.
Sure.
People
Yeah.
do forget. And that's why it's only like, so it's 5,000, but of the 5,000, it was like 60 people that actually got emergency revocations of their certificates. And that's out of hundreds of thousands. Like we're talking teeny tiny percents
Sure.
of people affected by this. This is not like cataclysmic. We're going to have a new pilot shortage. This is just
And even out of the 5,000, they said what, like 600 hold an ATP?
60.
60 hold
Oh,
an ATP.
60 had revocations. I
Had to
don't know about the
revocate, but I think
ATP.
only like, I thought I read
Yeah.
somewhere it was like 600 or even air transport pilots. So
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you're,
Well-
sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, even outside of the VA benefits, I mean, I've flown with enough guys who, as pilots in general, you don't like to even talk about medical stuff, right? Because if you lose your medical, you kind of lose your job, which could be kind of a
Frowned
Debbie
upon,
Downer,
yeah.
right?
upon.
And yeah, exactly, man. And if if you hide, I don't think hiding things is anything new on the pilot side, or maybe just not divulging all information might be a better.
That was a JAG
term.
episode.
Was it?
Remember the JAG episode where the guy that he goes on the stand and he's like, read from left to right. And he reads it and it
Oh.
was I fly Navy because they
Yeah.
changed the thing on him, but he had it memorized.
Yes.
Oh, Harmon
Wow.
Rapp got him.
Dang,
Got
dude.
him.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. You're going to have Harmon Rabb in court with you,
Right. So I mean,
who
is
has
it-
night blindness himself.
it's weird.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it
is
was-
it wrong? Yes,
yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
But dude,
All
that
right,
story in military aviation is as old as time, right? Of guys,
Oh.
doing things to get through and whatever it takes to get through a physical so they can go fly. And I'm
Yeah, I
not saying
mean-
it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'll tell you what, like that shows a lot of dedication to want to go do something. Right. I mean, there were guys in World War II that couldn't read, didn't have the right vision, they're memorizing stuff, but they want to go fight for their country. Like, kind of hats off, man. Honestly, like, sorry. Now civilian world, flying passengers, different animal, right? I mean, and if we're trying to maliciously, falsify things so you get more money, different animal. But like, so I think
Don't
that's
lie.
part of the problem. Yeah.
yeah,
it's
don't
just-
lie. Yeah, movers. I
Don't
mean,
lie.
at the end of the day, it's like, just don't lie. I mean,
Yeah.
Don't lie.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't lie. If you make a mistake, own up to it. Don't lie.
Yeah.
Douglas, to the chat, sir.
Yes, sir. Connor Custer was waiting
Thanks,
for
Connor.
Wombat to be here again. Curious where wingtip awareness sits on the list when landing E2 on a carrier.
Oh boy.
It's all right. All right. Sorry, the real men who flew airplanes around the ship are talking for a minute.
She's a wide girl.
She's a big girl. So it's an 80-foot wingspan and an 85-foot landing area. And I mean, Gonky could attribute like they park those planes right up on the foul line. So center line's huge. You think about it all the time. The ship thinks about it. The air boss thinks about it. You know, that's why we usually come down last, because of deck space. They want to, you know, it's hard to taxi around, even with the wings folded. So it's a big plane.
So that's like, as a Hornet guy, when I'd be like manning up my airplane and I'm right on the foul line, like close to the wires.
You hear the bees, you're like,
yeah, and it's like, oh my god, here comes the E2. It's like canopy's coming down immediately, and like Wombat said, it is. It's 5 feet, and you're parked right up against the foul line, and I mean, you see him out there making his little corrections, and you're like, it's center line.
Well, dude, and I mean, you add to that, like, I mean, the same things you had to deal with. The center line's constantly moving to your right, except now we got massive amounts of P factor, you know, 4 tails, 3 rudders. I mean, it's a mess. I mean, one of my best friends, I mean,
it's important.
Story, he bolted, and the wingtip of his right wingtip went through the tail of 2 Super Hornets on the bow of the Nimitz, and he went back airborne. I mean, so that's
did it take the wingtip off? Did it take the wingtip
2 foot of it gone? Wow, 2 foot. The Grumman tech reps came out 2 days later because they brought him back aboard the ship, because that makes sense, because we were 60 miles off the coast of San Diego.
Sure.
Which is where the depot maintenance is, which would have been an excellent place to go land. But I digress. They bring him back aboard the ship, and the tech reps come out, and they were like, man, if it was something like less than 2 more inches, it would have severed all the hydraulic lines. The plane would have crashed. It was crazy. Wow. So they had to crane it off, actually. So, and then
so I guess your awareness is quite high.
It's quite high.
Okay.
Yeah. Not anymore. I could care less about center line now, but back then, quite a bit. The Hornet took all that out of me. I don't, whatever. You could land on
left lane, right lane,
left or right. It's fine. It's fine.
This is all very interesting. Next.
BQ Sam would like to know, what are some health complications that come from being a fighter jet? When can you retire without any issues?
The day before you start.
24 years old after your first flight, assuming you don't pull 9Gs.
Correct.
The spinal issues.
Did you permanently damage your bladder your first F-16 flight? Dude, right?
I gave myself cancer. Yeah, right. I thought I gave myself cancer.
That's after the first flight.
Yeah, I had my first neck injury when I was 26. And tore a bunch of tendons in my neck right here that still to this day give me problems now. The jet that broke me the hardest was the T-38. That gave me disc issues, even worse, because that stupid parachute also gave me.
Viper's bad though, right? Because the guys that I fly with that flew Vipers, it's horrible for your back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because the seats recline, so you don't lean against it. You're
up like dogfight. I never thought of that, but I'm like, yeah, dude, if you're
except when you do defensive, you put your head against the headrest. It actually tells you to do that. Like the book, if you read the manual, it tells you to set your head and do it. But the problem is it's not defensive. Defensive was my favorite because low G, relatively speaking. Yeah, well, it's relatively low G, and you set your head, you know, whatever. Yeah. It was offense or high aspect that would mess with you. Hey, Luna. She showed up
because you're trying to look and pull hard, and
because you're transitioning, right? Yeah. So you're like, and you forget, because that's how I tore my neck. I was fighting the wing commander, which biggest story of his life, because he's like, I broke the lieutenant. But dude, I'm telling you, we cut across the circle, and I picked my head up off the seat. Like I was up trying to look across to see him, and dude, it was more pain than any. I didn't think I could land the jet. Like I could not, like this whole side of my neck just was locked and I could not turn. And it was so much pain. They pulled me out of the airplane. Like I finally got in, I taxied in. I'm like, oh my God. I went to the clinic. They gave me muscle relaxers, dude. I slept for 2 days straight.
Wow.
And I was just like done.
Wow.
And like you never imagine that much pain just from your neck. And then, dude, once your neck's immobilized, like they'll tell you this in self-defense, right? You immobilize the head, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Well, now you're flying a fighter trying to do that.
Yeah.
And then
jeez.
that lower back, neck, sinus issues, probably jaw issues from the mask. A lot of guys have shown up with cancer. Cancer is a big thing with fighters. Hearing, knees from running because of stupid PT tests that tests nothing that we ever do.
Neck and back are probably the biggest.
You guys have to run from the golf course to the plane. So, I mean, that's like us running. It was not a carrier. Like, where are you going to go?
It's a slow trot.
Because of the harness. Like, you can't run in that anyway because it's got, your.
Well, you have a harness. We unclip it so you can walk like a normal man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I used to go to sleep.
When I got to the Navy, I was like, where are the clippy clips to unclip this harness? I don't want to waddle to the jet. You can't look cool waddling to a jet.
Yeah, you do.
How do you look cool?
You do.
How did Tom Cruise look so cool saying, I feel the need for speed?
Because he wasn't wearing
they didn't have
the real
it
equipment.
up. It wasn't correctly fitted. That's why.
Yeah, there you go. That's just a movie. Every single Navy fighter pilot, the only time his G suit is properly fitted is like the first day or when he goes to the centrifuge. Yeah.
Correct. On G suit.
Well, I'm talking the harness. The harness is supposed to make you waddle because you have to sit.
Yeah, no, same with
you
the
have
harness.
to sit if you eject. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Air Force, we just unclip it.
Yeah. No, Navy, we're way cooler. We'll just hurt ourselves.
You can go to Home Depot and get a couple like D clips for like $6.
I don't know if those are rated.
Why are they poverty?
We build ships, not golf courses. We don't have the money for that.
Boats.
Next, no, we also have ships too. We just
Cluderous.
Dang, thanks,
One
man.
last shot.
Thanks, Cluderous.
All right, last one for tonight. You guys remake Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh,
Whose car do you use for the movie? Wombat's Mustang, Moore's Corvette, or Gonky's IROC? That's
Gonky's IROC.
Yes.
None of them. We go back to Vance and we get the Dragon.
So actually, Wombat was a Trans Am. Like he had a Smokey and the Bandit.
He was a what now? Did we just? He was a what?
Trans Am guy.
Oh,
he's a Trans Am guy.
Words matter.
I misheard. I'm talking. I thought there were conversions happening.
I'm talking no kidding.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
6.6 liter T-tops, and we used to roll around Enid, Oklahoma in that thing in our white T-shirts with like Cheap Trick blasted on.
Yes. Do you remember?
It was the greatest. Yeah, we got
when
smoked.
do you remember when we got room inspected, or I got room inspected by the base commander? And the female, I guess she's a captain or lieutenant or whatever your 03 is. First lieutenant.
Captain.
And we were going to meet up to walk over the hangar, and I got room inspected, and I had all the parts from the Trans Am all over my dormitory because it's the Air Force. And dude, this female was writing every one of these things up. You remember this because I'm sure you did room inspections, Mover, and like everything's getting written up. She's like, "Oh, I got this Navy guy," and like finally, this base commander's like, "Is that your Trans Am in the parking lot?" Yes, sir. He's like,
awesome.
"Let's go take a look at it." And I didn't get rid of for anything, and I was like, she was so pissed. There was like dude. I had like alternator, air conditioner. Like, it was torn apart.
You did the whole interior. That thing was awesome.
They
couldn't get out of its own way.
It could. Oh no!
Yeah.
Remember how awesome it sounded in Corpus when we cut the exhaust off it at the base shop to go get mufflers put on?
Yeah, but out of the three here, the three choices that he's given us, for sure, the IROC.
It has to be the IROC.
For sure,
dude. It's gotta be the
Everything else has way too much performance for a Smokey and the Bandit movie. IROC's the only one that
you can't jump the vet anyway. It'd be totaled as soon as it landed. It's the end of it.
The IROC
just splinters.
The IROC just has the screen presence.
The Shelby's just going to be hitting people the whole time. So
we need a Sally Fields though.
Oof, don't we all?
Well, you're getting Sally Struthers.
Dude,
real time today. Not
on that note.
Hey,
Anthony Cornelius. I have two friends who had to fight the FAA to get their PPL because they were diagnosed with ADHD as kids.
Did they actually get it? Because I got a buddy who same thing, and he's not able to get a medical.
Email me, Gonky. I've got a flight doc friend that might be able to help. Mayo Clinic is also a very good. Yeah, she's usually pretty good about being able to help people.
Okay.
or anybody. If anybody wants to email me if they got a question, I got a flight doc friend that takes up calls. She used to work at the Mayo Clinic, and they've got ways to make the argument.
Thanks, Cheddar. Look at
No
that.
question,
Cheddar.
but thank yous. I never get a bell notification for lives even being set to all. Astounding how much quality content, especially considering everything. You're awesome.
Well, everything.
It's
I
content.
wonder which channel that was for.
Oh, he's totally talking to me, dude. He said you're awesome.
Considering everything.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
kind of a
okay.
giveaway.
All
Dead
right.
giveaway.
Thanks, Cheddar. Next.
The FAA doesn't like a lot of medications prescribed for mental health, especially those that help you sleep.
Let's trigger for both of those, actually. Trigger did 2 of them. But yeah,
There's a-
It makes sense, kind of.
I think we're behind the times a lot when it comes to mental
yeah.
health, just in general.
Yeah, I think the FAA is kind of picking and choosing what they consider as safe medication and not. That's my own personal opinion, which means nothing, but that's just my own opinion based on our world today.
Yeah.
All right, next.
What do you think is the cause of the high rate of cancer in fighter pilots?
It's the
Radiation.
reverse
Lives.
cowgirl riding of the radar that you're on. Or is it real?
I've
Whatever.
never thought of it that way, dude, but that is pretty funny.
The giant
Mover, I don't know
between
why
your
you're.
legs.
It's the truth.
Mover
I'm trying
doesn't
to do the math.
understand.
What
It's
what
like cruise sock and reverse. What's going on here?
You're
Is
going
this
to learn
Navy
some
talk?
things tonight.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's just the radar. I mean, we had it was funny. Not funny. It's sad. We had a high rate in the E2 community too. But the ongoing joke in the E2 community is, you'd go to squadron functions and every high up in the squadron, their families come. It was all girls. And you're like, wonder what's going on with how's that all?
Was it you that told me in the E2, like when the radar
You heard
was-
it.
Yeah,
You
hear
heard
it.
it.
In
You
headset.
hear it in the ICS every time the dome beam would come around. It would.
That sounds like space, dude. That's awesome.
It's
You're
like
not-
space, but
you're
way
getting
less
ra-
cool than space.
You're getting radiated, dude.
You're dying a little bit.
Every
Like
time.
literally, when we say up there
Slow-
on a triple cycle, like I'm dying a little bit every minute here. That's what we
Slow
Dying
cooker.
inside.
Yeah.
Dude, I
Killing
think
me
all-
softly with your dome.
Also, I mean, right? It's a glass canopy. I mean, there's not a lot of UV above you a lot, right? So, I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of sun exposure, UV exposure, a lot of radar
Gamma.
exposure,
Yeah.
jammers.
Liver
Who knows?
problems.
Yeah, but they don't
Oh, no,
fly
that has to
high,
do with
right?
it. It's not. What, the E2?
You're not like up in the 40s or anything, are you?
No, but I have a radar that can melt people above me. I
I
mean, literally, that was one of the things. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's still in there where there was like, you don't turn anything on the ground because if the squat switches fail, like
Hurt
people
someone.
go poof.
Melt your face off.
Such an
Next.
awesome airplane.
We lose more plane captains that way.
Yeah.
Cheddar's
Cheddar,
back.
thanks.
Sorry for the probably dumb question, but how do you not completely block each other's comms in combat? How isn't it bzz, bzz, bzz all the time?
You
You
can.
shut the up.
But you
That's
can.
why every mover ruins movies. That's all I ever key in on because it's like that's the number one thing is calm discipline. Shut up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
You know, I always used to poo-poo like the calm discipline would be at such a level that it was just ridiculous, right? And then I experienced some calm that was definitely not as disciplined, and I was like, oh,
It kills your situational awareness.
it'll
It's
kill
horrible.
you.
Ooh, we're gonna get to that in a minute. Yeah.
You're
It
welcome.
can kill you too, like literally.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's a script.
Should I put a microwave oven in my flight sim for maximum immersion
Sit on one.
Austin.
with the door open?
Sit on one.
Sit
Straddle
and
it.
spin. Yeah. Make sure you'll
Oh,
have
gosh.
girls.
You want a real DCS experience?
Hope you kids are in bed.
Thanks,
There's
Peter.
Yep,
Heat.
Peter.
Hey, scooters forever, man. Whoa. Did you have a
And
question? I forget.
no, he didn't. He was just saying
No,
that.
it's just nice. Be nice.
Auburn Alum says, I'm friends with a few Prowler folks, and they all have medical conditions that are unexplained by the docs.
Where's the Prowler?
That thing's got some trons.
Yeah.
It's got some trons.
We're
got
caught
some
up.
They're all
trons.
pointed forward.
Allegedly.
Alleged.
Right.
Alleged.
Spread out.
That's true.
Forward of the back
Yeah.
here. So
Yes. Towards the
English.
cockpit.
That's why a lot of us in the T-38 did not even turn the jam. Remember that, Gonky? Or
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
not turning that thing on.
Even in the Hornet, it's like, are you guys
I
sure?
turned it
Because
up.
it's sitting like way back there, and you're like, I'm sure it's.
Well, you were
No,
sitting
dude,
on it in the T-38.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I never.
I'm not turning this thing on.
Did you ever have anybody in your air wing join up on the Hawkeye and then have the Hawkeye crew mess with them, tell them they had to go like to the dock and get all this extra? That was our joke.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
if they joined up like like the NFOs would be like, oh, dude, they had this whole like form.
Script.
Oh, you got to go to the dock. Like, dude, the radiation you just got is like a lifetime. Blah, blah.
I'd fall for it.
All right.
Oh, yeah. That's
All
why
right.
I asked if you ever. I assumed. You're like, I never joined up on the Hawkeye. Screw those guys.
Moving on. Wombat gave me the great segue. Today's mental health minute applies in life, applies in everything. Loss of situational awareness. How do you know when you've lost situational awareness? What is situational awareness? And how do you get it back? Gonky, I'm going to let you have the floor first. I always talk first. So,
all right. Well, what are the three questions? How do you know you've lost SA? Well, a lot of times, man, you don't. So, right. That's the.
How do you recognize it? Yeah.
A lot of times you recognize it by an outside input, because loss of SA is basically your perception of reality isn't reality, right? So whatever is causing that, if we're talking about airplanes, if we're, trying to process radar data and whatnot, your perception of what's going on might not be real. And then maybe your wingman or whatever comes in with some new information via radio call that you're like, oh, wait a minute. Right. And it kind of puts the train back on the tracks. So, I mean, it could be super dangerous, man, because if you're not living in the real world, I mean, whether you're flying an airplane or not, it can hurt you for sure.
Wombat, I know you've got a great story.
It's tough to tell. I'll be honest, man. This whole time I've been thinking about it, and I don't know if you guys know it, but I know I don't talk about it much because it was a big deal. Like my folks don't even know, so if they're watching, they might want to turn this one off. But we were in Fallon as Air Wing, and Gonky knows. I mean, you guys have both been to Fallon, but Air Wing, you're kind of at the tip of your spear, I guess, before deployment. Like you're feeling really good. And we all felt that way, and we were doing our tactics. I'll never forget it. It was one of the last flights I was going to do on that det, and we've been practicing these things all month. Really all workups, and I flew lot. God, it's hard to tell. I flew lot 12s, and they weren't the best, obviously. Mids, not the best, but we had gotten really good working together, and I was flying with my skipper, and we're doing our tactics, and essentially we'd come in and we'd dive to the deck and then past a certain point, climb back up, turn around, we were basically supporting each other that way. And we got botched, and I'm looking, I'm going out, and it's like one of the last outs I'm going to do, and getting long gas, and your mind goes to, okay, I got an RTB soon, all this stuff, and I hope I got all my notes for the debrief and all that. And I look at mids because I'm assuming the other plane is gone, coming back in high, and I see the mids track right in front of me, and I'm like, stupid mids. And then all of a sudden I look out and I have a face full of Hornet. And because the only way I can describe this, the only reason I did this is because on the out, I was supposed to go down. So the only thing I did was unload, and he went right over the top of me. And you talk about, some external force snapping you out of it. It was Betty screaming, pull up. And, it took full aft stick, grunt. They pulled the tapes after, and rat out was less than 100 feet at the bottom out. I mean, they talked about it, within the air wing, within the squadron. And I mean, it was, it was like a second left if I hadn't pulled up when I did. And, it was tough. It's still tough. I mean, you can probably tell I don't like talking about it. But I learned a lot about situational awareness because, Looking back on it, I could see identifiers that I was losing my situational awareness like about 15 minutes leading up to that. My mind was other places. And since that moment, whether it's when I was still flying fighters or T-45s or even now in the airlines, like I could recognize those same things about me, and I could snap out of it very quickly now. And there were subsequent emergencies I've had and things like that I think I actually survived because I was able to recognize, hey, I'm losing my SA. Focus on what you can focus on. And like Mover said, it's not just aviation. I mean, how many people have been driving a car that has the collision assistance or something like that, and that catches them off guard, right? They didn't see a car, and all of a sudden it's it's braking for you, or it's doing something, or it's alerting you, and you're like, you've lost situational awareness, right? So I mean, it could be every day in your life, and it's, thank God I learned the lesson, and I wasn't somebody's memorial page or something like that. But I absolutely should have been, and it's 100%. I lost situational awareness to what I was doing, and that was it. I mean, so it's huge. I mean, I think it's probably one of the scariest things in aviation to lose. But I think it's really tough if you don't recognize it. Kind of like when we talk about, we were always trained, at least I was, you guys were, with hypoxia, know your symptoms. What do you see in yourself when you start to lose these things? And I don't ever really remember that with situational awareness. Like, what are your tendencies? And I've talked to people, and I've talked to doctors about it since, and they say that we have tendencies with situational awareness, where when you start to lose it, it's the same for you, regardless of the situation, whether it's in aviation, whether you're driving your car, or doing whatever, you lose the same kind of insights in the same order, the way your brain works, which is pretty interesting. So luckily I've learned from it. Thank God I obviously made it out. It's the question that I got asked a lot after is, why didn't I pull the paddle? And I guess my situation wasn't there, or my brain, I just didn't want to get in trouble for overheating the jet. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but yeah, it was close. It really was. So.
Wow. Yeah, the first thing you usually lose is your hearing. That's like across the board. We brief that, we talk about that, because you'll start missing radio calls. You'll start missing what people are saying. And it's the same thing. I mean, when you say radio calls, I can talk to like sheriff's office stuff, when you're out on patrol, because you're listening to the radio, you're trying to build a picture where everybody is and everything, much like you do in flying fighters. And first thing it goes, hey, you missed a call, you missed a key up, you missed something. I'm sure any profession where communication is key, that's usually first thing. And so, going back to the whole situational awareness, right? It's the understanding of your surroundings and your environment. What's going on? You're processing all this information and building a picture in your mind of what's happening. And when it starts to break down, we lose that sense, and we kind of get stuck in our own world. A great example, I would say, Gonky, you and I, probably the T-38, right? Because when I first started and you first started, we didn't have iPads with TCAS and, the ADSB tracks and all that stuff. You didn't know where anybody was unless you were listening. And they always used to tell you, the first thing when you start to lose situational awareness, because all you have is your hearing. Yep. First thing you need to do is get back in your block. And what a block is an altitude assignment that you're given, and you know that if I'm in this place, I should be safe. Now, granted, what happens when two people lose SA? Sometimes they run into each other. And the T-38 was the first place where we're teaching ACM tactics, air combat maneuvering. It was the first place that I had learned, if engaged supporting fighter, but if you're in a fight 2v1 and you lose SA and the other guy is doing a thing, you just get out. You remove yourself from the fight, because three people where one has no SA, one's trying to fight the other, and they can't keep track of each other, it's safer to just extricate yourself from this situation. And sometimes even in life, that's the goal. Go to your safe place, not safe space, but your safe place. Go back to what you know, and then work your way back out. Build that picture once again by, just like the task saturation, you have to build it block by block to get yourself. And sometimes it's, hey, a cool question, if you're calm permitting, Sometimes it's just, look, I'm just going to remove myself from this fight. No harm, no foul, because I am not helpful when I am what we call tumbleweed. When I don't know what's going on, I've completely lost situational awareness. I got to get out. I got to get out of this situation, and then either build range and regroup or get out altogether so that you can do it. I mean, we do the same thing. We call them cold ops, right? What happens, you're going down range, you're facing a threat. You lose the picture. You don't know what's happening in front of you. So you go cold. And that works in life too, where you're facing some situation, you're facing some threat, and it's starting to get overwhelming and you're starting to lose what's happening in front of you. So you go, okay, let's build some separation from this. Let's give me some time. I need some time away from this so that I can open that aperture back up, start listening again, and then figure out what's going on. I mean, one of the times I lost situational awareness just when I was in the field training program. We came up on a car with a guy inside, and I'm just like, he's like, hey, shine your spotlight on him. So I'm like, okay, cool. Next thing I know, I look over and my FTO's got his gun drawn, and I'm like, what? Holy shit. What are we doing? And I'm like, okay, I guess so. And because it was a guy that was not cooperating. He was very inebriated in his car at 2:00 in the morning, wouldn't show his hands, and we didn't know if he was reaching for something or whatever. And I tell that story. I mean, nothing ended up happening. We actually ended up giving the guy a ride home because, we just wanted to help the dude. But in that initial moment of what the hell is going on, my situational awareness went to zero. Like, I thought I had this understanding of what this picture was. And then I look at over, and this was a guy that had been shot before. So this is a dude that's on his heightened awareness because he kind of knows the situation. So for me, that realization, like, hey, okay, I need to have a higher sense of realization myself, but also when I'm in a situation, I can also use context clues to get myself back in the fight. I can see what other people are doing. I can use those clues to kind of, okay, this is a dangerous situation. I need to use cover. I need to do this. And it's just wherever you're at. Sometimes you have to bring a friend in. You have to do that, phone a friend, whether you even talk to them or just observing, to get that picture back of what's going on.
Yeah, I can't agree more. You mentioned the loss of what you can hear. When we did the debrief in my situation, there was 2.5 minutes of tape where I didn't respond. It was about about 1.5 minutes of that was prior to the merge and the pull up. So my SA was shot long before I even turned cold and went out. So I can't. Yeah, I can't agree more, man. And I can imagine in your situation, that's pretty damn scary to not realize you're in that situation. But
yeah, and hey, the other thing is, if you're the one with the SA in life, flying or whatever, make it your responsibility to help your buddy out. I mean, in Wombat, in your case, your electronic buddy helped you out.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
but we do. That's a great point. We do that as wingmen, as flight leads.
Yeah,
and wingmen,
100%.
Right? When like Gonky, remember that time I had the AMAD pressure, and you and I are flying, dude. We're backing each other up.
Yep.
I mean, you're keeping me from losing situational awareness because you're like, hey, we're this far from the field. Where are we at in the checklist? How are we going to recover?
You're task saturated, right? So I mean, it's easier. You're more susceptible to becoming to losing SA just because you're out of your element and you're task saturated.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love in my current job of teaching, where you get people that aren't as familiar with our background, and they'll make the general stereotype like, oh, single seat fighter pilots, they don't know CRM and they don't know how to work together. And I'm like, I disagree. I think it was in a lot of respects a lot easier in the Hawkeye when I can physically reach over to talk to my co-pilot, to have that CRM. Sorry. Compared to when you're in a different jet. And it was my skipper who, after I obviously recovered, but he got back on me and got my head back in the game. And so I think it's very difficult when you're single seat, because the communication barrier is there. You're not right next to the person. And yeah, it's huge. And I agree 100% in life. I've said this before on this channel, and I believe it. I mean, we're in times right now where people are struggling big time, and you don't know. You don't know the person you're dealing with and what they're going through, whether that's the person ahead of you in the grocery line or ahead of you at the gas station or a best friend of yours. And the best thing that you can do in my opinion, is to try to be empathetic to it. And if they're missing the forest through the trees because whatever they're in is so bad that there's no way they can get out of it, be that light that shows them, hey man, like, win every battle, right? I mean, every step, sometimes we've all been in situations where, it's not even getting through the day, it's getting through the hour, it's getting through the minute, it's getting through the damn second, but that's a win, right? And you, as the person with situational awareness to the situation, can bring that to them and go, hey, just let's get through this step together, and then the next step together. And like Mover's saying, it broadens them back out, and they can take a look at the whole picture and go, you know what? You're right. I have a chance. And that's really all you're trying to do is give your buddies a chance.
Well,
You're concise, correct, calm.
Yeah, and Wombat, you bring up a good point, dude. I mean, outside of the cockpit, I think a lot of times outside of flying, as far as losing SA and like you say, with people struggling mentally, it's a hard time to believe anything you hear, right? So just like in the airplane, if you get bad information, you are going to lose SA, right? And it's kind of like in the real world, like you have to feed your brain good information for you to be able to properly handle whatever's actually in front of you or mentally going on or whatever. And we're in a time when that's, I would argue, is pretty challenging. Especially with social media and the regular media, and people are really scratching their heads. They don't know what to believe, what to trust, and that really forms your perception of reality, and it can affect your mood and your mental state. I mean, you bring up a great point, man. So I mean, it's trying times, that's for sure.
You got to own your mind. I always say that you got to own your mind. That's
Make
6
sure,
inches between your ears. If you can't own that space, that doesn't matter what you're going through.
You got to control what you feed your brain.
Yeah.
Bad SA is worse than no SA.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. 100%, man. 100%.
That's true.
I mean, look at all the mishaps we have where they just had bad information. Like people
100%.
were working off of terrible
100%.
assumptions.
Yeah. Or I mean, even your basic private pilot, right? I mean, he gets, his attitude gyro tumbles and the visibility is not bad, and you just, right, it's bad info. It'll kill you.
Well, let's go back to the MiG-23.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Two different levels of situational awareness. We don't know who's right. We don't know who's wrong, but
that's right.
They were different. That's for sure.
They were very different, and they didn't communicate because it becomes communication. If you can't talk to your wingman guy in the cockpit or whatever. Wombat, to your point about talking about it's easier in an airliner, the other piece to that too is if I'm trying to give my crew member situational awareness, autopilot aside, that's somebody else who can fly the jet.
Yeah, correct.
If you're single seat, all he can do is talk. I remember, the lightning strike, VFA 204, dude, all I could do was watch and talk. When he was incapacitated and I'm just talking him around the pattern and flying as close as I could to try to say, hey, let's put the thing on the thing and do this.
Yeah.
I couldn't take the airplane from him. Like when he came up aux and said, and we were in a right-hand turn at 450 feet turning towards the runway. And he said, this is hard. And he slurred it. I'm like, dude, I'm about to watch something very, very bad here. And there's nothing you can do but say, okay, I'm going to have to be the calm one and keep talking and, just try to build this picture. Okay. Airspeed, altitude, aim point, all that stuff. And that's what we have to do as our friend. If we see our friend spiraling down and they have bad information, we have to give them good information.
Correct.
So,
I agree.
Douglas, you got anything from the practitioner/expert perspective?
I was listening to this one to learn. I didn't have much to add. I've been in way too many situations where I've lost SA, and the thing that brought me back almost killed me. So I wanted to know how to fix that.
Well, you see it. I'm sure you see it teaching race car students.
Oh man, yeah. And what I've seen is that helicopter pilots have got SA for days.
That's because they can just hover.
That's fake news.
You could stop. Yeah, that's not
okay.
Know,
it was an Apache
true.
pilot that I'm thinking.
Well, that's a different.
Yeah, that's a real.
Nick Cage.
That's a real.
Nick Cage, man. He had that Corvette and everything, of course.
No,
the guy
he
was
is the
telling me where
greatest.
the guy was telling me where the other cars were. He said, "Did you see that flag at turn 3?" I was like, "Yeah."
But race cars is a great example of losing
Yeah,
situational
absolutely.
awareness, because remember Daytona, we had
Yeah,
120
we
something
saw it
cars
with
on
Cole
that track.
Trickle, right? No, is that not where you're going with Daytona?
Well, and I think it's a good analogy because there's a lot of factors that come into play, like fatigue and, and weather conditions and traffic. And if you're just out there driving around for a while and suddenly you come up on some traffic or it gets dark, things change. So yeah. Maybe I can relate. But
I'm sure.
A lot of good advice.
All right.
But if somebody says pull up, period.
Even if you're in a race car.
Up or out, either way. Good advice. Sorry.
All right. Moving on.
He's not wrong. I mean,
he's not wrong. No.
So,
let's see. We got,
either one can save your life. It's basically
save your life and your bank account. Trigger 118 says, "Love the channel, guys. You guys have got me through some hard times, so to speak." Oh, sorry, that's a serious thing. Hard times I'm going through. Keep up the amazing work. Sorry you're going through that stuff, Trigger.
Yeah, man.
We need to have some fun, man. This was deep.
Hold on, one more pitch for the mental health, because I always say this. Oof. Look, if you're struggling by yourself, if you're struggling in general, get help. Talk to somebody. Don't try to fight this battle alone. There are options for you, even if it's calling 911. Don't ever make a temporary problem permanent. Don't lose SA to the point that you're just going to end it all because you felt like you couldn't get it back, because there's always light. There's always another life that waits for you, that you can reinvent yourself, make it better, do something cool. Just don't do that, because there are people that care about you. No matter what, somebody's going to have to pay that price if you'd make that decision, and it's not worth it. It's just not. So there you go. All right. Sorry. I had to do that because that's important to talk about.
It is
every time. Douglas, what else we got?
We have Make Them Tell You No.
I don't have any Make Them Tell You No. We have any more chats, because I think that's the end of the show after that.
We're caught up.
All right.
Let's
really?
see. Wait, we've got
one.
That
Jason.
Jason.
Speaking of loss of SA, have you guys had to have gone in a flow state where your brain just goes autopilot, not where you just did something very complex? That's the whole point of training.
Yep.
I'll tell you mine. Doug, you'll probably like this one. Maybe not. I don't know. So when I was in pilot training, the HUD video is actually on the channel somewhere. I was on my second or third solo, the formation solo, where it's you and then the instructor and a student. So your solo formation. And it was my next door neighbor, Advance, and my flight commander in one jet. They were leading, and I was the wing on the formation takeoff. And at rotation, worst part in a T-38, hot day, bird goes right between us, gets in the intake, and compressor stalls. And you talk about flow state / temporal distortion. I did the bull face and had no idea I did it, because everything after that was automatic. It wasn't until I got on the ground, I'm like, did I try to abort? Like, I honestly I was worried. I thought, I'm like, well, I'm going to hook this ride, because I thought that I had ripped the throttles to idle and tried to stop and then kept going. But if you watch the tape, it would have been impossible to take off had I done that, because by the time I got airborne, the gear's up, I'm out of runway. And it was just because of that. But that temporal distortion of time standing still, your brain goes into, oh, I got this. I've trained this so many times, throttles the max, flap 60, attain CETOS minimum. And I did it. I mean, I even watched the nose push over, and it was all automatic. It was all just my brain based on the training. It just did it. And that always stuck with me, because I'd heard of guys, they eject or they had gone through things and everything was automatic or time slowed down or whatever. So I think there's a little bit of both temporal distortion and flow state in that. You don't remember doing it. You're just like, well, it must have happened. Wombat?
You and I have talked about some of my incidents, both in the E2, the Hornet, T45. I've talked about them on your channel, and just as friends, we've all talked. But I'll tell you, like, my brain, when I have essay, and I don't know if this is just dumb luck, it probably is. It's not skill, but like it goes into a place I can't even describe. I think of the most bizarre things because I have such a hyper focus. I mean, I still to this day remember when I couldn't turn the Hawkeye left on landing because of a hydraulic issue, the center line call the backup LSO made. And he's a friend of mine. And I remember thinking to myself, great call, bro. Like, I mean, to think of that in the moment, but it's etched in there. Like it'll always be etched in there. And it was a great call. But like, so that's what I think this is but I agree with Mover. And it's one of the things, you know, as an airline pilot, but also as an instructor, and some would argue more an instructor than an airline pilot, frankly. But that's what worries me about aviation training in general. It doesn't matter if it's civilian, military, or whatever. It's like every minute that you cut out of any aviation training pipeline, you're taking away some of what Mover just described. That whether it's flow state, muscle memory, you know, there's a lot of, you know, you're on brainstem power. I've heard that before, which I had a girlfriend once explain to me how it's actually not brainstem power because that's not the part of your brain. We didn't work out, by the way. I don't know if that shocks you. That relationship didn't last very long, but it's all of that is why you need that time, you know? So when you get people starting to look at it from a money standpoint and go, we could take this out. We could take this out. You can until you can't. And that's what worries me. So
I shared this on the Twitter. Dave Grossman, fine American, on training. You don't rise to the occasion in combat. You sink to the level of your training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I've heard there's various iterations, you know, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training, all that stuff. And it's true.
There's been many, and Wombat will 100% agree with this. Part of your job as an LSO is to make sure, you know, I think I'm high, you know, you think I'm low. I listen to you kind of thing, right? There's been a lot of night traps I've done where clearly my perception of where I'm at and where this airplane's going is not real based on the calls I'm getting. And, you know, somehow I trap, right? So, I mean, it's a complex procedure. There's a lot of stuff going on. Meatball line up, ammo attack, nighttime, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. And it is kind of amazing now that I think about it. I never really thought about it until you guys mentioned those stories, but yeah, I guess I don't go. I'm not sure where I go, man, but the training
you go
kicks
somewhere.
The training kicks in, and like you said, man, you land. And I think that's how it would. I mean, I used to get the shakes in the legs after
Same.
if it was particularly scary night, but
Same. Adrenaline dump.
Yeah, and that might be it, man. It might just be adrenaline taking over. You know, it's the fight or flight or whatever. But yeah,
your brain's trying to protect you, man. Like you don't remember half the night.
Dang, dude, I'm getting a
little sweaty. Turn the lights out in Gonky's room.
Is that a new shirt or is that the same blurry one from last time?
Oh, it's your vision, dude. This is a brand new one. It's crystal clear.
Yeah, just like my shirt.
You might want to get your VA rating and eyeballs checked out, man. This one's fixed.
Mover ruins his 40s.
Mover ruins Mover.
No.
As usual.
Next episode, you have glasses.
Ben says, get Casmo talking essay. Yeah, he's a helicopter. He's a TAC helicopter. He's got a new show. Go check it out. I think it's tomorrow night on the Tuesdays. So we don't conflict ever.
That's good.
Casmo is a great guy.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the end of the show.
Another one in the
Nail.
books.
Just on. I see him commenting. That's all I'm going to say.
Perfect audio visual. I'm pumped.
Yeah. I mean,
I learned
really have come into your own.
What was the term you taught me? Cruise sock.
Oh, dude.
We're going to end on that?
Kids,
really?
Yeah. Gonky goes the whole show with absolutely no glitches, and that's how we end.
That's right.
Cruise sock.
Yeah, kids go to bed. Don't Google that.
Tickle me up.
Yeah,
we need to have a contest to name Wombats UAP there.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing I find funny is sock was not your worst and most offensive call sign. Okay. That's the best part about it. It's Gonky.
There was one before Gonky that was.
Was there? Do I know it?
Does it start with a C?
Yeah.
Was it phonetic? The phonetic for C?
Yes.
Yeah.
They called me that for a while until I complained about it and it manifested. I've already said too much.
Complaining always works with call
Complained about a
signs.
call sign.
Trust me.
Great job.
Trust me.
Way to be that guy.
There's your flow state. Auburn alum says, thank you all for the
Thanks,
encouragement
Auburn.
and inspiration. As a dad who was bullied by his own dad to never take that step as a pilot. That's not good.
Yeah,
Y'all are
it's
refreshing inspiration. My own son now aspires to be a pilot for the Coast Guard. Awesome.
smartest decision
You guys are
ever.
the
That is
fathers, so
great.
I'll let you weigh in on how to be a
Yeah.
good dad.
Good service. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Every Navy pilot kicks themselves for not going Coast Guard. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, hey, just continue to encourage him and take him to air shows, you know.
Watch Mover Ruins movies.
How old is he?
Yeah. Say.
Yeah, no, but the big thing is just keeping the fire going.
Yeah.
Air shows. I mean, gosh, we have YouTube now. You can watch air shows,
Oh
right?
my
When I was a
God.
kid,
You can watch
Yeah,
air
there
shows
was-
from the cockpit.
Yeah.
yeah,
good.
yeah. So just I think aviation is a very healthy, I don't want to say it, hobby or
Outlet.
yeah,
Outlet.
yeah.
It's an outlet. Yeah.
It's a healthy
Yeah.
outlet because there's so much you can apply to your life with it, right? Because it takes some discipline, it takes some studying, it takes a certain amount of not much
Joie
but
de
health,
vivre.
health and fitness. And yeah,
Less
it
than
takes
you'd
some money.
realize, but
It takes some money too, which is
Yeah.
good. So,
Yeah.
but it's
Good
a
on,
healthy
good on.
thing, And hey, if you're, it didn't really deter me from making a lot of poor choices as a young man. But if you have to have a relatively clean record
That's
to-
true.
to be a pilot one day, well then, you try to stay out of trouble. Don't drink,
Yeah.
don't all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a healthy thing, man. It's
Definitely
good.
don't go to Oak City on a random weekend advance.
you might kill something.
That's true.
And Sheldon, thank you.
Sheldon,
Appreciate
thanks,
that.
man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Parting shots before I hit the button.
No.
Oh,
That's great.
that's a
Thanks
good
for
one,
having
man.
me again.
Thank
Yeah,
you
what was
all.
that?
Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Wombat. Go buy Wombat's book, trmatson.com.
Yep.
He
Buy
put a
Movers
poll
books.
up.
He can't
Yeah,
say it,
we
but I'm
can
going to say it.
I could say it. Buy all of them.
Yeah.
Buy them all. Let's get Mover to #1. Wouldn't that just be like, screw you guys?
I'll be number 2 behind TR Matson.
You're just trying to manage expectations, aren't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
That-
Yeah, I
So-
don't-
you guys
sets the-
teed
Sets
it
the
up
bar
for me.
low and fails to achieve it. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
So
I don't want people expecting too much out of me. All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Douglas.
Thanks
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye-bye.